Chapter 5044. Zhao Qing stared straight at Huang Ling. His eyes were filled with deep admiration and admiration. To be honest, it was already an incredible miracle to be able to pass through the 10,000 demons path in 10,000 years. It was normal for many people to be trapped in a certain level for tens of thousands of years or even longer. What? Huang Ling was a little confused when she heard Zhao Qing's words. Then, she quickly understood that Zhao Qing had misunderstood and thought that she had passed through the 10,000 demons path. Little Qing, you misunderstood. It's not me who passed through the 10,000 demons path. I'm very ashamed. I only passed the 54th level after 10,000 years. Huang Ling quickly explained. It's not you? Then who is it? Where is he? Zhao Qing's eyes darted around as he searched the surroundings. He thought that someone else had passed through the 10,000 demons path and rescued Lu Ming and Huang Ling. He then brought Huang Ling and Lu Ming here and left. He still did not think of Lu Ming. Lu Ming had only entered the 10,000 demons path for 200 years. Moreover, he was a human. This was simply impossible. It was impossible. He's here. The one who passed through the 10,000 demons path is him. Lu Ming, Huang Ling said. Zhao Qing, the fire phoenix, had his mouth wide open as he stood there in a daze. His eyes were wide open. Well, what did you say? The one who passed through the 10,000 demons path is him? How is this possible? He has only entered the 10,000 demons path for 200 years. Moreover, he's a human. It's impossible for him to comprehend demonic arts so quickly. How can it be him? Zhao Qing shouted in disbelief and almost collapsed. But it's really him. Huang Ling muttered. She did not know how to explain to Zhao Qing. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose. Was it incredible to pass through the 10,000 demons path in 200 years? Why didn't he think so? In fact, he had only used 130 years to pass through the 10,000 demons path. He wondered what Zhao Qing's expression would be when he found out. Here, this is for you. It's the reward for passing through the 10,000 demons path. Take this formation plate and you can pass through the 10,000 demons path unimpeded and reach the universe of the 10,000 demons mountain. Lu Ming said, handing over the formation plate he had obtained from the myriad demons path to Zhao Qing. Is this true? Zhao Qing said in a daze. If you don't believe me, you can try using the array plate. Lu Ming said. Zhao Qing revealed a bewildered expression. Was what Lu Ming said true? Did Lu Ming really pass the 10,000 demons path? Was the iron plate in Lu Ming's hand really the reward for clearing the 10,000 demons path? With it, one could travel unimpeded on the 10,000 demons path. She still found it hard to believe, but Lu Ming and Huang Ling had clearly broken through the void and appeared here. She had no choice but to believe it. All right. In the end, Zhao Qing's body flashed with light, and she transformed into a young and beautiful girl wearing a fiery red dress. Then, she picked up the array plate and flew into the square. Immediately, the 10,000 demon path in front of her changed. It was different from before, and a path appeared. She stepped out and disappeared in front of Lu Ming and Huang Ling. Lu Ming and Huang Ling didn't have to wait for too long. Only half an hour later, Zhao Qing's figure reappeared. It's true, it's true. I can freely enter and exit the 10,000 demons path. Zhao Qing's face was full of excitement and ecstasy. She was too excited. Since the destruction of the primordial world, the demons of the 10,000 demons mountain had sealed themselves and isolated themselves from the world. It had been countless years, and they couldn't go out. Zhao Qing was born inside the 10,000 demons mountain. She couldn't be more familiar with the small 10,000 demons mountain, and she was tired of it. Her dream was to walk out of the 10,000 demons mountain and go to the legendary primordial world. Now, this dream had finally come true. How could she not be excited? Then, she looked at Lu Ming with burning eyes. She didn't expect that it was really Lu Ming who had passed the 10,000 demons path. A human actually spent only 200 years to pass the 10,000 demons path. What kind of talent was this? The reincarnation of a human king? Cough, cough. Lu Ming blushed when Zhao Qing looked at him. He coughed a few times and said, after this array is activated, it can cover many people at the same time, and many people can pass the 10,000 demons path at the same time. Great, great, great. Zhao Qing beamed. But now, there are many forces outside the 10,000 demons mountain. Creatures of the forbidden areas are dominating. You have to be careful. Lu Ming warned. Creatures of the forbidden areas? Creatures of the forbidden areas have appeared? Lu Ming, tell me in detail about the current situation of the universe. Zhao Qing said. Okay. Lu Ming nodded and immediately told her about the current situation of the primordial world. I see. I didn't expect the primordial world to become like this. But now, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we grasp it well, maybe the demons can rise again. Zhao Qing whispered. She yearned for the outside world, so she was familiar with all kinds of books about the primordial world and understood a lot of things. Well, you can discuss what to do. Huang Ling and I will leave here first. Lu Ming said. Okay, then we'll see you another day. Zhao Qing hurriedly nodded and couldn't wait to find the other experts of the demon race to discuss this matter. Goodbye. Lu Ming cupped his fists and reached out to grab Huang Ling. Their figures flashed and they headed out of the 10,000 demons path. With Lu Ming leading, they were unimpeded and soon returned to the surface of the 10,000 demons mountain. Then they flew out of the 10,000 demons mountain. Now that 200 years had passed, the restrictions around the 10,000 demons mountain had reappeared and become stronger. However, now that Lu Ming had the Demon King Emperor mark, the restrictions of the 10,000 demons mountain were useless to Lu Ming. The formations of other places were difficult for Lu Ming, but the formations of the demon race were really not difficult for Lu Ming. The Demon King Emperor mark could easily see through all the formations and restrictions of the demon race. Soon, Lu Ming and Huang Ling passed through the restrictions of the 10,000 demons mountain and saw a figure waiting anxiously outside. This figure was naturally Mulin's. Mulin's had waited outside the 10,000 demons mountain for 200 years. She was really anxious. Could it be that Lu Ming was also trapped in the 10,000 demons mountain? Otherwise, why would he not come out after 200 years? Just as she was waiting anxiously, she saw Lu Ming and Huang Ling fly out. Lu Ming, Mulin's was overjoyed and flew over. Sister Mulin's, Huang Ling blushed and withdrew her small hand that was held by Lu Ming. She knew about the relationship between Lu Ming and Mulin's. She felt a little guilty when Lu Ming grabbed her hand in front of Mulin's. Lu Ming naturally knew what Huang Ling was thinking and smiled bitterly in his heart. It seemed that he would have to spend more effort on getting along with the girls in the future. Huang Ling, it's great that you're fine. By the way, what happened after that? Mulin's asked. Huang Ling immediately told her about her experiences over the years. Her experience was actually very simple. After entering the interior of the 10,000 demons mountain, she entered the 10,000 demons path. She spent most of her time in the 10,000 demons path. After Huang Ling told her, Lu Ming also briefly told her how he rescued Huang Ling. Chapter 50-45. Mulin's was almost numb to the various miracles that Lu Ming had created. Therefore, when she heard that Lu Ming had used 200 years to break through the myriad demon path that the demon race could not break through for countless years, Mulin's heart did not fluctuate at all. She was very calm. The pressure of the origin tribulation has decreased again. Suddenly, Lu Ming let out a soft cry of surprise. Originally, peak divine master existences could feel the pressure brought about by the origin tribulation. Lu Ming discovered that the pressure brought about by the origin tribulation had decreased greatly compared to 200 years ago. However, this was normal. After all, there were only about 300 years left until the end of the origin tribulation. The closer it was to the end of the origin tribulation, the weaker the power of the origin tribulation would be. Let's return to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm first. Lu Ming said. The three of them flew towards the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. After a while, they returned to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. As soon as they returned to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, Lu Ming and the others learned two important news. The first was that the early origin realm existences had awakened one after another. The origin tribulation was no longer dangerous to early origin realm existences. Early origin realm existences no longer had to worry about their lives and could move about freely. Of course, the stronger one's cultivation was, the greater the suppression of the origin tribulation. Those above the mid-origin realm could not awaken yet. This was definitely a major event, enough to change the situation of the major forces in the past. In the past, when the origin realm did not appear, the invincible divine master was the strongest and could dominate the battle. Now, the invincible divine master's role would be greatly reduced. No matter how strong the invincible divine master was, he was only a divine master. At most, he was equivalent to the most ordinary origin realm existences. However, how many early origin realm experts were there in the Forbidden Grounds? The Forbidden Grounds and the Ashen Azure Divine Realm were not like the Heaven Destroyer or the Celestial Race. There were only a few hundred origins. Their number of origins was astonishing. It was not something that the Heaven Destroyer or the Celestial Race could compare to. There were even geniuses among these early origin realm existences. It could be said that the invincible divine master no longer had the right to speak, but the origins. Lu Ming was quite depressed. It hadn't been easy for him to cultivate a Genesis technique, and it was very likely that he would be able to break through 5 times. He had thought that he would be invincible under the heavens and that no one would be his match. Who would have thought that an origin realm expert would appear before he could even make a name for himself? Lu Ming was powerful, but he was not arrogant. With his battle prowess, he could deal with regular early reciprocity experts, but he would definitely be done for if he encountered monstrous geniuses of origin. After all, reciprocity cultivators were able to unleash the full power of source-grade divine weapons. The second piece of news was that the peerless prodigy of the Dark Vine clan, Shi Tianting, would be attempting a breakthrough to reciprocity in a month's time. It's possible to attack origins even under the Great Tribulation of Origins? Lu Ming was shocked and couldn't help but exclaim. Of course it's possible. Legend has it that once one breaks through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins, they will obtain unimaginable benefits. Their talent and potential will greatly increase. Of course, the difficulty of breaking through is also astonishingly high, and it's also extremely dangerous. Legend has it that countless peerless geniuses have tried to break through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins, only to die in the end. It was Han Yu who explained to Lu Ming and the others. So it's possible to break through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins. Lu Ming murmured inside, his eyes filled with astonishment. It said that Shi Tianting has long wanted to break through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins, but the Great Tribulation of Origins was too powerful in the past, so he didn't dare to take action. Only recently, when the Great Tribulation of Origins weakened a lot, did he begin to prepare to break through. Now, a large number of people from various major forces have already headed to the Great Tribulation of Origins to witness this once-in-a-lifetime event. Originally, I also planned to set off. You guys came back just in time. Do you want to go together? Asked Han Yu. Of course we're going, said Lu Ming. He was also a person with loftier ambitions. Since he could break through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins, he would obtain great benefits and raise his upper limit. How could he not be tempted? He naturally wanted to see Shi Tianting break through to reciprocity to broaden his horizons. If possible, he also wanted to break through to reciprocity under the Great Tribulation of Origins. His cultivation base had already reached the limit of a peak godly master. As long as he stabilized for a while, he could begin to break through. Very well then, let's set off together. Han Yu nodded. Great Tribulation of Origins. Great Tribulation of the Primeval Continent in the Last Era. It was a famous mountain that was renowned throughout the world. Shi Tianting had chosen this place for 2 reasons. First, the environment of this famous mountain was excellent, and the primeval qi was extremely rich. Second, it also meant that Shi Tianting was superior to the heavens. One could see that Shi Tianting's ambitions were loftier than the heavens. When Lu Ming and the others arrived at Great Tribulation of Origins, there were still 10 days before Shi Tianting would break through to reciprocity. At this moment, there was already a sea of people around Great Tribulation of Origins. Humans, 9 demonic spiders, extreme evil tribe, heavenly vine, dark heaven warriors, and ice fire tribe. The 6 major forces of the Western universe had all gathered. There were hundreds of thousands of people from each side. There were at least 1 million people present. Now, with the recovery of the primeval universe, there were more and more resources. The number of living beings in the Forbidden Lands also increased. Of course, excluding those in the Origin realm, the living beings in the Forbidden Lands who woke up later were not particularly powerful. There were not many godly Master Realm experts who had broken through to the extreme tribulation. This was because the living beings in the Forbidden Lands had resources in the past. The first ones to wake up were the extreme tribulation experts. He had to awaken the powerful ones first before he could seize more resources. Although there were many living beings in the Forbidden Lands who woke up later, most of them were ordinary godly emperors and godly masters. Lu Ming glanced through the crowd and saw many familiar faces. For example, Zhu Tian of the 9 demonic spiders, Mo Sha and Yi Chan of the extreme evil tribe, and so on. There were also many existences with terrifying auras in the crowd. Without a doubt, these people were all Origin Realm experts. Lu Ming, Mulins, and the others silently mixed in with the human experts. With the help of these human experts, they blocked the view of Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others. If Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others discovered Lu Ming, they would probably go crazy and ask the Origin Realm experts of the 2 races to deal with Lu Ming. Right now, watching Shi Tianting break through to the Origin Realm was the most important matter. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Fortunately, Zhu Tian and the others' attention was on the heaven-upholding peak. They did not notice Lu Ming's arrival. A figure sat cross-legged on the heaven-upholding peak. It was Shi Tianting. There were at least dozens of heavenly vine experts guarding around Shi Tianting to ensure that he would not be disturbed. Of course, if he really began to break through to the Origin Realm, outsiders could not interfere. If outsiders interfered while breaking through to the Origin Realm during the Origin Tribulation, they would be courting death. Not only would they harm themselves, but they would also implicate the person breaking through. Not only could outsiders not help, but they could not even use their various weapons. Chapter 5046. Lu Ming mixed in with the crowd and listened to the discussions of the people around him. He obtained a lot of useful information. There are 2 main obstacles to breaking through to the Origin Realm under the Great Tribulation of Origin. The first obstacle is how to make the Origin seed sprout and transform into an Origin root under the Great Tribulation of Origin. Not far away, a few old men of the human race were discussing. Just by standing there casually, the old men of the human race gave off a feeling that they were one with the world. This was the Origin Realm. Clearly, these old men of the human race were early Origin Realm cultivators who had recently unsealed themselves and awakened. These people had lived for a long time and knew a lot of secrets. That's right. Under the Great Tribulation of Origin, one will be suppressed by the cosmic sea. It's more than 10 times more difficult to make the Origin seed transform into an Origin root. It's also very dangerous. If you're not careful, the Origin seed will collapse under the pressure of the cosmic sea. At that time, it won't be as simple as the Origin seed collapsing. You'll be completely destroyed, another old man in a silver robe said. This is only the first difficulty. The second difficulty is even more dangerous. Even if you succeed and transform into an Origin root, the cosmic sea will still devour the Origin root. How to stop the devouring of the cosmic sea is the most important thing. If you dare to break through under the Great Tribulation of Origin, the cosmic sea will become violent and the devouring power will be abnormally strong. If you can't stop it, you'll die. The old man in front continued. Some of the young people in the surroundings turned pale. The difficulty was just too great. Originally, under normal circumstances, breaking through to the Origin Realm was shockingly difficult and very dangerous. There was a risk of death if one was not careful. Needless to say, under the Great Tribulation of Origin, it was practically a hellish difficulty. This is the difference between a monstrous genius and an ordinary genius. Although this step is dangerous, it's also an opportunity. If you succeed, the gap between a monstrous genius and an ordinary genius will be further widened. Even geniuses of the same level who have passed or not will rapidly widen the gap between them. Legend has it that in the primeval continent of the last epoch, there were peerless monstrous geniuses who specifically searched for universes under the Great Tribulation of origin. They went to those universes to break through to increase their upper limits and enhance their talent and potential. An old man glanced at the young people and said indifferently, "That's right. Legend has it that the human king Shen Yuan and the ancient queen did this." Another old man said. The young people secretly curled their lips and didn't agree. Human king Shen Yuan and the ancient queen. Who were they? Were they human monarchs? He was a supreme master who dominated the untainted continent. Even creatures in forbidden lands and other universes were frightened by his name. How could they compare with him? One shouldn't bite off more than they can chew. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Shi Tian-tang, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and nodded slightly at the experts of the dark sky vine race. The experts of the dark sky vine race around Shi Tian quickly retreated and left the towering sky peak. Boom! After the people of the dark vine race left, a powerful aura burst out from Shi Tianting's body. He began to break through. The eyes of the millions of people in the surroundings lit up. Shi Tianting had been adjusting his state before. Now that he had adjusted his state to the peak, he immediately began to break through. Shi Tianting's aura became stronger and stronger as if there was no end to it. His body was surrounded by red and black lights. One could see a ball of light in his body. It was like a sun that emitted a dazzling light. What a powerful aura! Is this the fourth stage of the extreme break? Some origin realm existences looked solemn. They felt pressure just from the aura without making a move. They were shocked by the terrifying strength of the fourth stage of the extreme break. Of course, these were the more ordinary origin realm existences. The truly powerful origin realm existences didn't change their expressions. Shi Tianting's aura was still rising. Lu Ming knew that Shi Tianting was breaking through to the origin realm. It would be crucial when his aura reached the peak. Rumble! Suddenly, the void trembled. Rumbling sounds came from the depths of the void. Then, a terrifying pressure suddenly filled the place. The pressure of the origin tribulation has increased. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Just now, Lu Ming clearly felt that the pressure of the origin tribulation had increased by a lot. He hasn't broken through yet, but he's already caused a disturbance in the cosmic sea. How shocking! Retreat! The origin realm existences retreated rapidly, retreating billions of kilometers away in an instant to distance themselves from Shi Tianting as soon as possible. The reason why they could break their seal and come out was because the power of the origin tribulation had weakened. It didn't have much effect on early origin realm existences. However, Shi Tianting's breakthrough had caused a disturbance in the cosmic sea, causing the power of the origin tribulation in this area to increase greatly. How could these origin realm existences dare to stay? If they stayed, they would probably die before Shi Tianting could break through. The disturbance in the cosmic sea caused the pressure of the origin tribulation to increase greatly. However, it didn't affect those below the origin realm much. Those below the origin realm didn't retreat and continued to watch. Shi Tianting's aura continued to increase, and the origin seed in his body began to tremble. Everyone knew that it had reached a critical moment. Now, Shi Tianting must be under tremendous pressure. If he wasn't careful, his origin seed would explode, and his entire body would explode, destroying his body and soul. Rumble! The rumbling in the depths of the void continued and became more and more intense. In the next moment, the space in the void actually continued to spin, forming a vortex. Above Shi Tianting, the space distorted and collapsed. Through the distorted space, one could even see an ocean. That was the cosmic sea. The cosmic sea was rolling, and the waves were surging violently. It was breathtaking, as if it was furious. From afar, this vortex looked like an eye that was looking down and corroding Shi Tianting. A crisp sound spread throughout the entire place, causing everyone's hearts to skip a beat. Everyone saw that a crack had appeared on the origin seed of the celestial vine. A crack has appeared on the origin seed. Is Shi Tianting going to fail? Nonsense, that's the state of taking root and germinating. Shi Tianting is going to break through successfully. Many people roared. Chapter 5047. A crack appeared on Shi Tianting's origin energy seed, causing many people to lose their composure. In the beginning, many people thought that Shi Tianting was about to fail, unable to endure any longer. However, they soon discovered that they were wrong. Shi Tianting was about to succeed in his breakthrough. The origin energy seed was about to sprout. Only after the origin energy seed had broken through could it sprout and grow an origin root. As expected, cracking sounds constantly rang out. More and more cracks appeared on Shi Tianting's origin energy seed. A while later, the cracks were like a spider web, densely covering the seed. Afterwards, strands of roots extended from the origin energy seed. These roots spread out, extending to various parts of Shi Tianting's body. The existence of origin energy, the roots of the origin root, took root in various parts of the body, covering it like veins. Above the origin root was the vast ocean, connecting to the cosmic sea. As for the soul, it would enter the origin root, borrowing the origin energy of the origin root to nourish and strengthen the soul. As a result, the origin root was extremely important to origin realm existences. Once the origin root was destroyed, the consequences would be extremely severe. More and more roots appeared on Shi Tianting's origin energy seed, extending to every part of his body. Afterwards, the origin energy seed slowly grew upwards, and an origin root slowly appeared. The origin root seemed like a meridian, but it was actually completely condensed from origin energy. It was extremely tough, comparable to divine weapons. Generally speaking, it was very difficult to shatter. Origin realm existences had a way to preserve their lives. Once their origin root was attacked and on the verge of shattering, cultivators could escape into the roots of the origin root to protect their soul. This was because the roots of the origin root were rooted in the body. As long as the body was not completely destroyed, a new origin root could be grown through the roots in the body. As a result, origin realm existences possessed extremely tenacious vitality. Killing them was very difficult, unless the body was reduced to ashes or the soul was destroyed with lightning speed. Although origin realm existences could theoretically survive even if their origin root was destroyed, no one had ever tried it. Firstly, once the origin root was destroyed, you might not be able to grasp the opportunity to escape into the roots with your soul. Many people's souls didn't even have time to escape the instant their origin roots were destroyed. Secondly, even if one's soul managed to escape into the roots and preserve one's life, if one's origin root was destroyed, it would be extremely difficult to regrow it. The amount of resources required would be astonishing, and it might even affect one's future cultivation path. After all, monstrous geniuses who could break through and rebuild themselves were too rare. As time passed, the origin root of the heaven-seeding vine grew longer and longer, thicker and thicker. In the end, it stopped growing when it was an inch long. One could see that the origin root of the heaven-seeding vine was a mixture of white and red. It looked like a beautiful piece of jade. Success! The origin roots that have just broken through are all 1 inch long. The celestial vine has successfully broken through. Impressive! To be able to successfully break through under the great source tribulation, he is truly a monster. I wonder what level the celestial vine's source energy is. It shouldn't be low level, right? Nonsense. With Shi Tianting's talent, his source energy can't be low level. It's at least mid-level. Many people were discussing this matter. Origin roots were also divided into different grades. They were divided into low level, mid-level, high level, and peak level. Before breaking through to the origin realm, the stronger the power one controlled, the higher the grade would be after it was converted into origin energy. Of course, the majority of cultivators would have low-level origin roots after breaking through to the origin realm. This included many monstrous geniuses, even those who had broken through once or twice, but their origin roots were all low-level. It was simply too difficult to form a mid-level origin root. Only those who had broken through 3 times would have mid-level origin roots after breaking through to the origin world because the power they originally controlled was excessively strong. For example, Shi Tianting, who had broken through 4 times, would definitely have mid-level origin roots after breaking through to the origin realm. As for high-level origin roots, it was even more difficult. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It was basically impossible for someone who had just broken through to the origin realm to form a high-level origin root. Even 4 times would not be enough. Of course, there were unparalleled monstrous geniuses who had broken through 5 times in the great desolate continent of the previous epoch. As for whether or not they could do it, that was unknown. As for peak-level origin roots, it was simply impossible for someone who had just broken through to the origin realm to form one. It was simply impossible. However, the grade of the origin root was not completely fixed. After breaking through to the origin realm, it was still possible to continue increasing it if there was a fortuitous encounter. It was just too difficult. The higher the grade of the origin root, the greater the power of the origin realm. There were many factors that affected a person's battle prowess at the origin realm. Their cultivation base, the strength of their genesis arts, their divine weapons and armors, and the grade of their origin roots. Of course, there was also their battle experience, battle awareness, and so on. Their cultivation base was only one aspect. Therefore, Lu Ming smiled bitterly when he heard that those at the early origin realm could move freely. Some existences seemed to only be at the early origin realm, but their battle prowess was unbelievably terrifying. Although Lu Ming might have broken through 5 times, it was still better to keep a low profile. It's too early for you to be happy. Shi Tianting has only passed the first trial. Forming an origin root under the origin tribulation is the most dangerous part. An old man said coldly. Many people's expressions changed, especially the members of the Yin Vine race on a cloudy day. They were even more worried. When one's origin root was destroyed in a battle, one's soul could still escape into the root hairs, and there was still the possibility of growing a new origin root. However, under the origin tribulation, the cosmic sea would not only devour the origin root, but also the root hairs. It would be truly uprooted without any luck. Rumble. At that moment, the rumbling in the void became louder. The cosmic sea seemed to be furious, and the terrifying pressure became even stronger. The whirlpool spun rapidly, and then a terrifying devouring force acted on Shi Tianting's body. It had begun. Everyone was shocked, knowing that the most critical moment had arrived. If Shi Tianting could not endure it, everything he had done before would be in vain, and he would die. If he could endure it, his future would be bright. As long as he did not die, he would definitely become an immortal. Buzz. One could see that Shi Tianting's newly grown origin root was shaking violently, as if it was about to leave his body. No one can take away my origin root, not even the cosmic sea. Shi Tianting roared, and the aura of his entire body erupted. The origin force covered his entire body to resist the devouring force from the cosmic sea. Under Shi Tianting's full resistance, his origin root temporarily stabilized. However, the rumbling of the cosmic sea became even louder, and it seemed to be even more violent. An even more terrifying devouring force erupted. Shi Tianting's body trembled violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. Chapter 5048. An even more terrifying devouring force erupted from the cosmic sea. Shi Tianting's body trembled, and he coughed up blood. His face turned pale. Many people cried out in alarm. Could it be that Shi Tianting couldn't hold on any longer? Was Shi Tianting's genesis root about to be devoured? Shi Tianting coughed up a few more mouthfuls of blood. The origin force that covered his body trembled and began to disperse. Even his body began to slowly decay, and wisps of flesh and blood were slowly dissipating. The cosmic sea was going to devour even his flesh and blood. Shi Tianting had used his body and origin force to envelop the genesis root to protect it and prevent it from being devoured. The cosmic sea was very domineering, and it wanted to destroy the defensive object first. It wanted to destroy the defensive object first, then devour the genesis root and completely eliminate Shi Tianting. Not good. the heavenly vine people were the most worried. Was Shi Tianting going to fail and die? What a pity! Shi Tianting had already reached this step and successfully stepped into the origin force. From now on, his achievements would be limitless. There was a broad path in front of him that would lead directly to the immortal Tao. He was destined to have a bright future. His death was an irreparable loss for the heavenly vine race. Of course, some people were secretly happy. These people were from other forbidden lands. For example, the 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race. They were competitors with the heavenly vine race, and they didn't want to see a heaven-defying genius born in the heavenly vine race. Once he grew, it wouldn't benefit them at all. Shi Tianting hasn't reached his limit yet. There's still a chance. Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he stared at the battlefield. He had fought with Shi Tianting before, and he knew how powerful Shi Tianting was. It could be said that Shi Tianting wasn't any weaker than him before he comprehended Genesis techniques. He only won because he was born and raised in this universe and had an innate advantage. He didn't believe that Shi Tianting would die just like that. Shi Tianting roared, and his origin force crazily erupted. His body was covered in divine light, and then his body rapidly transformed into a vine. The vine was pitch black like black iron and filled with yin qi. This was the main body of the celestial vines, a powerful celestial yin vine. After the celestial vines transformed into their original form, they began to grow rapidly. From a few meters long, they quickly grew to millions of meters long. Countless vines extended from them, and these vines took root in the void. The air was grabbed by the vines and gathered toward the celestial seat vine, forming a layer of defense for the celestial seat vine. After reverting to his original form, the origin root in Shi Tianting's body became much more stable. Rumble! The cosmic ocean was roaring, and the void was shaking. The terrifying devouring power kept erupting, and it was in a stalemate with Seat Heaven Vine. Time ticked by. The hearts of the onlookers were in their throats. Everyone knew that every minute and every second was crucial for Shi Tianting. Perhaps in the next moment, Shi Tianting would be unable to withstand the pressure and be defeated. The situation of Celestial Vine was indeed not good. As time passed, he looked very miserable. Many of his vines were rotting, collapsing, and collapsing. The heavenly vine, which was originally several million meters long and covered the entire sky, was slowly shrinking. It went from several million meters to hundreds of thousands of meters, tens of thousands of meters, thousands of meters. 2 hours later, only a few meters long trunk was left of the celestial seat vine's original form. But at this moment, things took a turn for the better. The roaring in the void began to weaken, and the eye-like vortex in the void also began to shrink. Through the vortex, the cosmic ocean was slowly calming down. It was no longer surging and roaring. In the void, the terrifying pressure continued to decrease. It was going to pass. The onlookers had mixed feelings. They knew that Shi Tianting had withstood the origin tribulation and successfully broken through to the origin realm. It was heaven-defying. Among them, the people of the heavenly vine race were the most excited. Their race was going to produce an unparalleled powerhouse. He has withstood it. Looks like it's not completely impossible to break through under the origin tribulation. If Shi Tianting can do it, so can I. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with determination. There was another person who was as determined as Lu Ming. This person was from the Dark Heavens warrior race. He was as famous as Shi Tianting. He was one of the only 2 people in the universe who had broken through 4 times. If Shi Tianting could do it, so could he. His eyes were filled with determination. Other than the 2 of them, the other prodigies could only be envious. Shi Tianting had only succeeded in breaking through when he was on the brink of death. They were far inferior to Shi Tianting. Forcefully breaking through under the origin tribulation was courting death. Suddenly, the vortex in the void completely disappeared. But before the vortex disappeared, a beam of energy flew out from the cosmic ocean and shot at Shi Tianting. When this beam of energy landed on Shi Tianting, it quickly sank into his body. It could be seen that Shi Tianting's originally broken body was rapidly cultivating. The vines grew back and looked even tougher. Not only that, But the origin root in Shi Tianting's body was also changing. It was rapidly becoming thicker and longer. The origin root itself became more solid and emitted a dazzling luster. Everyone present, including the origin realm cultivators, was filled with envy. They knew that this was a gift from the cosmic ocean. Only those who succeeded in breaking through under the origin tribulation could receive a gift from the cosmic ocean. The gift from the cosmic ocean was no small matter. This energy could transform Shi Tianting. Not only would his physical body become stronger, but his origin root and soul would also be transformed. It could be said that Shi Tianting's origin root, or the power of the origin, had become stronger. Could it be that Shi Tianting's origin root has reached the advanced level? Someone asked in shock. With Shi Tianting's talent, even if he broke through under normal conditions, his origin root would definitely be at the intermediate level. Now that he had received a gift from the cosmic ocean, his origin root had transformed and become an advanced level? It's hard to say. In history, there are too few examples of successful breakthroughs under the origin tribulation. Moreover, everyone's talent and potential are different. The gifts they receive will also be different. No one can say for sure. Yes, maybe it has really evolved to the advanced level, or maybe it's still at the intermediate level. Some of the older generation figures were talking. They knew even more secrets. Just because one had broken through 4 times didn't mean that one could successfully break through to the source realm under the great calamity of the source realm. There were too many things involved. One's personal strength was the opposite, but there was also willpower, talent, potential, and so on. In history, there was no lack of existences who had broken through 4 times. They had broken through under the origin tribulation, but there were very few who succeeded. There were even existences who had broken through 5 times, but they did not succeed and died. Therefore, there was very little information left behind. Chapter 5049. Shi Tianting's physical body recovered rapidly. When he was fully recovered, he reverted back to his human form. At the same time, the energy between heaven and earth gathered towards Shi Tianting in a frenzy. Shi Tianting's aura rose rapidly. A terrifying pressure radiated from Shi Tianting's body. Many people in the surroundings constantly retreated. They felt like several hundred planets were pressing down on them. Shi Tianting's presence skyrocketed. This process lasted for several hours. Finally, Shi Tianting's presence completely stabilized. However, the pressure was still extremely powerful. It was even stronger than before. The peak of early reciprocity. Not only has he completely stabilized his cultivation after breaking through, he's even reached the peak of early reciprocity. Is this the benefit of breaking through under the origin crisis? That's not all. His body, soul, and origin root have all transformed. And that's just on the surface. The most important thing is his talent and potential. A few reciprocity experts exclaimed in shock. Their eyes were filled with envy. He had reached the peak of early reciprocity as soon as he broke through. Who knew how much time he had saved compared to ordinary people? His body, soul, and origin root had all transformed, becoming even more powerful. These benefits were enough to make people green with envy. However, these were only on the surface. They could be seen. The most important thing was talent and potential. Even if they increased, others would not be able to see it. For example, if one's comprehension ability increased, others would not be able to see it. These were the most important things. They were related to one's future achievements and limits. The breathing of many young geniuses became ragged. Desire filled their eyes. Breaking through under the origin crisis would bring just too many benefits. It was difficult for them to remain calm. Swish. At that moment, Shi Tianting, who had his eyes closed the entire time, finally opened them. His eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Anyone who met his gaze would feel a great pressure. Even the veteran reciprocity experts did not dare to look him in the eye. It could be said that although Shi Tianting had just broken through to reciprocity, he basically stood at the peak of early reciprocity. There were not many who could match him. Shi Tianting had already comprehended Genesis techniques. As for weapons and armors, Shi Tianting had already possessed them. They were all top origin grade weapons and armors. As for origin roots, Shi Tianting had to be at least mid-origin grade. Just how many early reciprocity experts possessed them? It could be said that as soon as Shi Tianting broke through the origin, his battle prowess skyrocketed. Wu Ju, if you can't make a breakthrough under the origin source tribulation, you will no longer be a match for me. Shi Tianting's gaze landed on a burly figure in black armor. This figure was called Wu Ju. He was the peerless genius who was as famous as Shi Tianting in the past. Wu Ju's eyes flickered, but he didn't say anything. He knew that it was pointless to say anything now. The current Shi Tianting was indeed undefeatable. Before he broke through under the origin tribulation, it was useless to say anything. Instead, it would be laughable. Moreover, Shi Tianting was correct. If he could not make a breakthrough before the origin tribulation, the gap between him and Shi Tianting would be irreparable. He would never be a match for Shi Tianting. He didn't say anything, but in his heart, he was even more determined. He had to break through under the great tribulation of origins. Then, Shi Tianting's gaze leaped over the crowd and landed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I know you're here. When I just broke through, I merged with the universe and my spiritual perception was sharp. I've already sensed you. Shi Tianting spoke again. Lu Ming is here? Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others looked in Lu Ming's direction with cold gazes. As soon as they observed carefully, Lu Ming couldn't hide even if he wanted to. He was immediately discovered. Lu Ming smiled faintly and took a step forward. Since he had been discovered, there was no need to hide. It really is Lu Ming. Immediately, countless gazes looked at Lu Ming in unison. Some were curious, while some were gloating. 200 years ago, Lu Ming defeated Shi Tianting. Would Shi Tianting seek revenge on Lu Ming now? Lu Ming looked straight at Shi Tianting without fear. He understood that with his current combat strength, it was impossible for him to be a match for Shi Tianting, who had broken through. However, if Shi Tianting really wanted to fight, he wouldn't avoid the battle. If he really couldn't win, he could just hide in the great desolate ring. Since he had been discovered, he could only face it. Lu Ming, I have to thank you. To everyone's surprise, Shi Tianting actually said those words. Even Lu Ming was surprised. Being defeated by you has made me realize my shortcomings, allowing me to make up for my weaknesses and strengthen my Tao heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to achieve a breakthrough under the origin tribulation. Shi Tianting continued. Lu Ming didn't say anything, but he sighed in his heart. Shi Tianting was really a terrifying opponent. After being defeated by him, not only did he not suffer a setback, he became even stronger and finally completed his transformation. Lu Ming had never seen such an opponent in his life. Even Lu Ming was impressed. I really want to fight with you again, but now is not the time. You haven't broken through to the origin realm, so you're not a match for me. Lu Ming, I'll wait for you. When you break through to the origin realm, we'll fight again. I hope you won't disappoint me. Shi Tianting said in a gentle voice, but his gentle tone was filled with strong confidence. Before Lu Ming broke through to the origin realm, he wouldn't bother to fight. He wanted to wait for Lu Ming to break through to the origin realm before fighting with Lu Ming. Alright, when I break through to the origin realm, we'll fight again. However, I'll tell you this. If I can beat you once, I can beat you again. Lu Ming replied in a very strong and confident manner. Ah, good. I hope that day will come soon. Shi Tianting laughed loudly. Senior sister, Huang Ling, let's go. At this moment, Lu Ming pulled Mulin's and Huang Ling and quickly retreated. Lu Ming, where do you think you're going? Since you've shown yourself, you still want to leave? Stay. With a few angry roars, Zhu Tian and Mo Sha charged at Lu Ming. Apart from them, several other Origin Realm experts from the two clans also charged at Lu Ming. These people's eyes were filled with thick killing intent. Zhu Tian and Mo Sha were especially furious. When they thought of how Lu Ming had suppressed them in the past and even used them to exchange for top-grade source-level divine medicines, their killing intent towards Lu Ming surged. They wanted nothing more than to grind Lu Ming's bones to dust. Let's go. Lu Ming retreated with Mulin's and Huang Ling. However, these Origin Realm experts were clearly extraordinary. They were all early Origin Realm experts. Their speed was astonishing. They quickly approached Lu Ming and erupted with their origin realm strength. Several terrifying attacks tore through the void and charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt a huge pressure. The battle prowess of these origins was very strong. The people from the two clans knew beforehand that Lu Ming had the battle prowess of a 4-time origin realm expert, so the ones who attacked were naturally not ordinary origin realm experts. They were all origin realm experts who were confident in suppressing Lu Ming. Chapter 50-50. The 9 demonic spider and several powerful origin realm experts of the extreme evil race launched attacks at Lu Ming. Space shattered as violent energy surged towards Lu Ming. It was an astonishing sight. These people were all extremely powerful. They could be regarded as experts among early reciprocity experts. They had all comprehended Genesis techniques and possessed soul-grade weapons. Lu Ming felt a tremendous pressure and was about to use his full strength to block the attacks. At this moment, a streak of black sword light appeared and sliced through space. The attacks of the origin realm experts were severed by the black sword light and dispersed in the air. Shi Tianting, what are you doing? Zhu Tian roared. The person who had blocked the attacks for Lu Ming was actually Shi Tianting. Lu Ming was also stunned. He never thought that Shi Tianting would intervene. He was about to use his Genesis techniques to block the attacks, but he stopped. Lu Ming just challenged me to a battle, yet you attacked him. What, are you looking down on me? Shi Tianting said coldly. Shi Tianting, we have no intention of opposing you. Lu Ming has a great enmity with us. We're just taking revenge. Mo Sha explained. I wouldn't care if you attacked somewhere else, but I'm definitely going to interfere today. A bunch of origin realm experts working together against a single divine master. How shameful. Aren't you ashamed? Shi Tianting sneered mockingly. Zhu Tian, Mo Sha and the others flushed red. They roared inside, you're amazing. Do you think everyone is as amazing as you? If we don't use our origin realm experts, how can we deal with Lu Ming? Of course, they could only roar inside. They did not dare to say it out loud. Shi Tianting was just too powerful. He was basically unmatched among early origin realm experts. Even if the origin realm experts of their two races work together, they might not be Shi Tianting's opponent. Lu Ming, you can leave, but I can only help you once. If you die at the hands of those rascals in the future, it means you're not worthy of being my opponent. Shi Tianting said to Lu Ming, his tone still arrogant. Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Although Shi Tianting was arrogant, he had a good character. He would remember Shi Tianting's help. If Shi Tianting did not make a move today, with his strength, he might not be able to escape unscathed. After that, Lu Ming took Huang Ling and Mulin's and retreated. Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others stared coldly at Lu Ming, Mulin's, and Huang Ling. Since Shi Tianting was stopping them here, they would follow him in secret and make their move after leaving this area. Seniors, let's go back to the Azure Divine Realm. Among the crowd, Han Yu said loudly to some of the origins of the human race. Alright, in any case, Shi Tianting has already successfully broken through. It's time to leave. Let's go back together. The origins of the human race were all shrewd people. How could they not understand what Han Yu meant? Han Yu wanted to invite them to go with Lu Ming and the others to avoid being ambushed by the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil race. They had heard of Lu Ming's name a long time ago. With an inferior bloodline, he had the battle strength of a 4-time extreme evil race expert. Such a monster belonged to the human race. How could they watch Lu Ming be killed? All of a sudden, the human experts and Lu Ming headed in the direction of the Tsongqing Divine Realm. Damn it, Zhu Tian Mo Sha, and the others roared in their hearts. With so many origins of the human race together, they had no chance to attack. If they attacked by force, would they start a war with the Azure Divine Realm? They could not represent the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil race. They only represented a faction of the two races. They could not make the decision to start a war with the Azure Divine Realm. At the end of the day, they wanted to kill Lu Ming because of a personal grudge. The 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil race would not start a war with the Azure Divine Realm for them. Now that the early stage origin realm had awakened, the various factions had become stronger and had more experts. Once a war broke out, it would involve more people. A war could cause the loss of many origins. This made the various factions even more cautious than before. In the past, no matter how they fought, the ones who died were divine lords and god emperors. For the beings of the Forbidden Lands, it was easy to cultivate god emperors and divine lords. However, it was difficult to cultivate origins. Origins were definitely the backbone of their strength. They could not afford to lose them. Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others could only watch as Lu Ming and the others disappeared before their eyes. There will always be a chance in the future. There are still 300 years before the origin tribulation ends. There will be plenty of chances. Zhu Tian roared in his heart. His eyes were extremely cold. After Shi Tianting successfully broke through, the surrounding factions also left. The area became peaceful. Lu Ming, Mulins, and Huang Ling followed the human experts to the Azure Divine Realm. On the way, human origins constantly greeted Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded and replied to them. In general, the humans of the Azure Divine Realm were very friendly. They did not look down on Lu Ming because of his inferior bloodline. People like Lu Weiyang and Pang Shao were in the minority after all. The current human race was not like the human race of the previous epoch. The human race was not as strong as it had been in the primeval continent. They were also not as arrogant as before. In general, they got along quite well. After more than 20 days, they returned to the Azure Divine Realm. Miss Hanyu, did anything major happen in the universe in the 200 years I was gone? After returning to the Azure Divine Realm, Lu Ming invited Hanyu to meet up and ask about what had happened in the years he was gone. The only major thing is that Shi Tianting broke through. There is nothing else, but there is something interesting that you might be interested in. Hanyu said. Interesting? What is it? Lu Ming asked curiously. The three of you are from the Eastern Universe, right? Recently, there have been quite a number of people from the Eastern Universe. Hanyu said. People from the Eastern Universe. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he asked, who are they? What do they look like? Miss Hanyu, can you tell me more about them? Lu Ming's interest was immediately piqued when he heard that people from the Eastern Universe had come. About 100 years ago, many strange races suddenly appeared in the Western Universe, which attracted the attention of the 6 major forces in the Western Universe. The human race also sent people to investigate. In the end, they concluded that these strange races were also creatures from the Forbidden Lands, but they were not from the Western Universe, but from the Eastern Universe. According to the ancient records, they should be the Yuanguang race, the Baleful Yin race, and the Tsangming race. Hanyu said. They are creatures from the Forbidden Lands in the Eastern Universe. Why would they come to the Western Universe? Lu Ming was puzzled. I'm not sure. 100 years ago, those who came from the Eastern Universe were all below the origin level. In the past few decades, because the early stage of the origin level could move freely, the origin level of the 3 races kept coming to the Western Universe to join those who came before. They became stronger and stronger, but they didn't contact the major forces in the Western Universe, nor did they occupy any resources, so the major forces didn't care. But through observation, the 3 races in the Eastern Universe should be looking for something. Hanyu explained. Chapter 50-51. What are they looking for? Lu Ming murmured with a thoughtful look on his face. The 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands had joined hands to come to the Western Universe. They must have come through the void. What were they looking for after spending so much time and effort to come to the Western Universe? The strange thing is that they have never left the 9 Elements Forbidden Land since more than 10 years ago. Hanyu continued. The 9 Elements Forbidden Land? Is it also a Forbidden Land? Lu Ming couldn't help but ask. The 9 Elements Forbidden Land was not among the 5 Forbidden Lands in the Western Universe. Yes, the 9 Elements Forbidden Land is also a terrifying Forbidden Land. It was as famous as the 9 Yin demonic ruins and the extreme evil land during the Eldritch Continent era. There was also a group of terrifying creatures living there. However, it was destroyed by human King Xian Yuan during the Eldritch Continent era. Hanyu said, It was destroyed by human king Xian Yuan. Lu Ming, Mulans, and Huang Ling were shocked. During the Eldritch Continent era, there were actually many similar forbidden lands. There were terrifying creatures living there. Some of these creatures were dormant, but some often caused trouble. Some of the terrible disasters in the history of the Eldritch Continent might have been caused by these creatures. Therefore, some of the peerless experts in the Eldritch Continent had a lot of conflicts with these creatures. There were even peerless experts who directly killed their way into the Forbidden Lands and destroyed them. Legend has it that human King Xian Yuan once destroyed 2 Forbidden Lands. Human King Xing Shi and the Ancient Queen had done the same thing. Otherwise, there would be more such Forbidden Lands. The 9 Elements Forbidden Land is one of the 2 Forbidden Lands that were destroyed by the human king Xian Yuan. However, these Forbidden Lands have astonishing origins and profound foundations. Their strength is also beyond imagination, especially the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. It is said that after the human king Xian Yuan killed his way into the 9 Elements Forbidden Land, a world-shaking battle broke out. In that battle, the human king Xian Yuan was injured. His heart was pierced by a sharp sword, leaving behind a drop of his heart's blood which turned into a vast ocean. Han Yu was very excited as he talked about these stories. However, Lu Ming's mind was blown. He had a flash of inspiration and grasped the key point. Human King Xian Yuan killed his way into the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. A great battle broke out there. Human King was injured. His heart was pierced by a sharp sword, leaving behind a drop of blood. The sovereign personage's blood. The 3 races of the Forbidden Area have not left the 9 Elements Forbidden Area for 10 years. Could it be that they are here for the sovereign personage's blood? What do they want the human monarch's blood for? Could it be for the human king's body? That's right, the human king's heart. Lu Ming's mind spun rapidly. In the end, he suddenly thought of the human king's heart. Could it be that the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands were searching for the sovereign personage's heart? By the way, are there any other races other than the 3 forbidden races? Lu Ming asked. There seems to be. I've heard that someone recorded the appearances of those people using a breath shadow stone from afar. I'll go and find a copy for you to see. After saying that, Han Yu left. Half an hour later, Han Yu returned. While he was at it, he brought back a rest shadow stone. Activating the rest shadow stone, an image immediately appeared in the air. A large group of figures appeared in the image. There were at least 500 of them. It really was the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands. Lu Ming could tell with a single glance that there were indeed 3 races of the Forbidden Lands in the image. Moreover, there were many faces that Lu Ming was familiar with, such as Origin 4 Extremities, Origin 5 Extremities, Gaishak, Nether Fiend King, and so on. Of course, there were even more unfamiliar faces. There were middle-aged people and old people. However, even through the breath shadow stone, he could sense the powerful auras of these people. Clearly, these people were all existences in the Origin realm. The 3 races of the Forbidden Lands had mobilized a shocking number of Origin realm experts. It was evident how much importance they attached to this matter. Ye Immortal. Soon after, Lu Ming saw a rather familiar figure in the crowd. It was the strongest ancestor of the celestial race, Ye Immortal. As expected, Ye Immortal is among them. This confirms my thoughts. It must be Ye Immortal who urged the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands to work together again. Their goal is to find the human monarch's heart so that we don't have to gather the complete body of the human monarch. Lu Ming understood when he saw Ye Immortal. All of this must be prompted by Ye Immortal. Ye Immortal had lived for a very long time. His thoughts were mysterious and cunning. They must have grasped some method to find the location of the human monarch's heart using the blood from his heart. No, the human monarch's heart can't fall into their hands. I must get it, Lu Ming murmured. He had already guessed most of the matter. At this moment, the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands and Ye Immortal's group stood on a mountain peak in the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. In front of them was a huge crater that spanned 1,000,000 square kilometers. The crater had clearly dried up. The bottom was blood red, as if it had been soaked in blood. Just what cultivation did human monarch Xian Yuan possess? Just a drop of his heart's blood was enough to create a crater that spanned 1,000,000 square kilometers in the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. It destroyed a large area of primitive mountains and formed a sea of blood. It's just that too much time has passed and the blood has dried up. An origin from the primordial light race sighed in amazement. Human monarch Xian Yuan was an existence that stood at the apex of the primeval continent. Even across the many universes, he was a peak expert. He's obviously not someone we can imagine. Another person sighed. Didn't an existence like that die too? We're about to succeed. Before long, we'll be able to refine the blood from human monarch Xian Yuan's heart and use it as a guide to find the human monarch's heart. A young man from the baleful Yin race said coldly and arrogantly. This young man from the baleful Yin race was a peak genius of his race. He was not much older than Gaishak, Infernal Fiend King, and the others, but he was already at the early origin realm. He was arrogant and unruly, looking down on everyone. From his words, it was as if he did not even take the human monarch seriously. To the side, the immortal showed a look of disdain. This kind of person had never seen the strength and terror of a human monarch. He had seen it before. If this kind of person really encountered a human monarch, they would be reduced to ashes with just a breath. The 3 races of the Forbidden Land worked together and set up a formation in the crater before them. They were refining the human monarch's heart's blood that had seeped into it. They had been working on it for almost 10 years. It would not be long before they succeeded. Of course, the human monarch's heart's blood had been here for countless years. They could not refine a complete drop of it. They only needed to refine a portion. The 3 races of the Forbidden Land had only found this method after rummaging through ancient books. With a portion of the human monarch's heart's blood as a guide, they could find the exact location of the human monarch's heart. They would succeed in a few months or a year at most. The Azure Divine Realm. After Lu Ming learned of this, he immediately decided that he had to stop it. He planned to immediately set off for the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. Chapter 50-52. Lu Ming, there are so many experts in the Forbidden Grounds. It'll be dangerous for you to go alone, said Han Yu. I won't act rashly. I'm only going to investigate the situation first. There's something else I need your help with. Can you help me find some people to spread the news along the way? Asked Lu Ming. Now that so many early reciprocity experts had been mobilized, Lu Ming was not stupid enough to fight them head-on. That would be courting death. Lu Ming only planned to investigate the situation first and ask Han Yu to help him find some people to spread the news along the way. After all, communication jade talismans would not work if they were too far apart. They would need some people to receive them along the way, like a relay station. That way, the news could be spread quickly. Lu Ming planned to hide and observe first. If the 3 races had really found the location of the human monarch's heart, he would spread the news. He believed that the various large organizations in the Western universe would be interested in the human monarch's heart. When the time came, he would be able to take advantage of the situation. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to take the human monarch's heart in front of the 3 races with just Mulins, Huang Ling, and Qiuqiu. That's easy. Han Yu agreed. With Han Yu's influence in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, finding some people to spread the news along the way was very simple. Soon, all the people were found. Lu Ming immediately set off with them. Mulins and Huang Ling were obviously worried. They wanted to go with Lu Ming, but Lu Ming turned them down sternly. He told them to stay in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm and wait for the news. Lu Ming quickly made his way to the forbidden grounds of 9 elements. Along the way, he would leave someone to spread the news. Communication jade talismans could reach him within this distance. Over a dozen days later, Lu Ming approached the forbidden grounds of 9 elements alone. The territory of the 9 elements Forbidden Land was very large. Although the living beings of the 3 Forbidden Lands, including the Primordial Light Clan, had sent people to patrol the area, their numbers were limited. It was impossible for them to monitor the entire area. Lu Ming easily found a gap and rushed in. The 9 elements Forbidden Land was in ruins. The originally solid ground was now full of cracks. The cracks extended forward as if they had been slashed by a battle sword. Lu Ming speculated that this was most likely left behind by human King Shen Yuan when he killed his way into the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. After that, Lu Ming activated his demonic monarch runes. Mysterious runes appeared on each of his eyeballs. He was checking if there was a formation in the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. The other Forbidden Lands all had a terrifying formation. That kind of formation was far beyond the origin grade, and it was very likely that it was related to the immortal Tao. It was extremely terrifying. As Xiao Chen circulated his Fei King Emperor mark, veined patterns appeared in front of him. It was an array pattern. However, they were all incomplete. There were both the earth and the void, but they were very damaged. They couldn't form a formation at all. They were no longer a threat. If this formation was intact, it would be extremely terrifying. But it's completely torn apart. Was it done by human King Shen Yuan? The power of a human king is so terrifying, Lu Ming exclaimed. The power of a human king was immeasurable. No one knew how strong he was. The Forbidden Land was flattened just like that. Such forbidden lands were terrifying places even during the Eldritch continent. Countless overlords were terrified when talking about them. They had an extremely deep foundation. The power displayed by the Forbidden Lands was only the tip of the iceberg. The most important thing was that the true power of these Forbidden Lands couldn't appear under the origin source tribulation. Otherwise, the Heaven Destroyer and the heavenly human race wouldn't have existed. Even in the prosperous Eldritch continent, there were countless experts and immortals. It was enough to imagine that these Forbidden Lands were terrifying. However, Lu Ming immediately thought of the human king's body. Legend had it that the human king was killed by an enemy. His body was divided into 7 parts and sealed in 7 different places. Even someone as strong as the human king was killed without a complete corpse. How terrifying was his enemy? What kind of enemy did he encounter in the Eldritch continent? Lu Ming observed for a while and found that there was no danger. His figure flashed and he went deeper into the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. There weren't many people from the 3 races in the Forbidden Land. It was impossible for them to monitor the vast 9 Elements Forbidden Land. In fact, when Lu Ming came in, he didn't see anyone. However, there were many surveillance formations everywhere. Obviously, they were set up by the 3 races in the Forbidden Land to monitor. However, Lu Ming now had the monarch marks of the monster race. These surveillance formations couldn't hide from Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Ming easily avoided these formations and went deeper into the 9 Elements Forbidden Land. Ye Immortal and the 3 races in the Forbidden Land. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a large number of figures. There were no less than 500 of them. Among them were the Ye Immortal, Gai Shak, the Infernal Fiend King, Yuan Ciji, and so on. He had arrived. Lu Ming restrained his aura. With a flash of his figure, he hid in a dilapidated mountain peak nearby. He hid among a pile of rocks and carefully observed the situation. It was similar to what he had seen in the Breathing Shadow Stone. The 3 races in the Forbidden Land really did send many experts. Just by standing there, the space around them constantly rippled due to the pressure of a powerful force. Without a doubt, they were all reciprocity experts. Relatively speaking, early reciprocity experts were easy to see because early reciprocity experts didn't have great control over their own origin energy. Some of their energy would leak out and affect the surrounding illusions. After reaching mid-reciprocity, there would be no such problem. Instead, their energy would be withdrawn and they would return to their original state. Lu Ming glanced around. There were actually over 300 origin experts from the 3 races in the Forbidden Land. Yes, over 300 origin experts. That was a terrifying number. These were origin experts. The Heaven Destroyer had only accumulated 49 origin experts after 60 stellar years. The Celestial Clan had sent all their experts, but they only had 100 or so origin experts. The 3 races in the Forbidden Land had casually sent over 300 early reciprocity experts. That was how deep their foundations were. Aside from the 3 races, the Celestial Clan had also sent over a dozen origin experts. They stood beside Ye Immortal. Further ahead was a huge, deep pit. It was blood red and covered in inscriptions. They formed a huge formation that was operating at full power. Lu Ming immediately guessed that the pit was very likely the place where the human king's heart blood had dripped. The three races in the Forbidden Land were currently using the formation to refine the human king's heart blood. Looks like it's still early. They need to refine the human king's heart blood first and then use it to find the location of the human king's heart. I'll hide in the shadows for now and not alert them. Once they find the location of the human king's heart, I'll spread the news. Lu Ming pondered. Lu Ming's plan was to follow them secretly and wait for Yi Wuxiu and the people from the three forbidden clans to find the location of the human king's heart. He would then spread the news and let all the forces fight for it, taking advantage of the situation. Chapter 50-53. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Suddenly, the formation in the deep pit gave off an intense light. It's about to succeed! Someone from the three forbidden races exclaimed, unable to hide his excitement. The sovereign personage's heart blood was about to be extracted. The formation lit up, becoming increasingly resplendent. Strands of scarlet blood qi came out of the deep pit and gathered in the air. The boundless blood qi continuously gathered into a point. The core of this point was the sovereign personage's heart blood. Immediately, a horrifying aura spread out from that point. It was like a universe pressing down on everyone's heart. The people of the three forbidden races and the Yi immortal nearly fell to their knees. Even Lu Ming, who was far away, could feel the immense pressure. Horrifying. This was the might of a sovereign personage. It was just a drop of heart blood. Furthermore, countless years had passed. It had already seeped deep into the ground and dried up. Now that a strand of it was extracted, it gave off such a strong pressure. The strength of a peak sovereign personage was unimaginable. It was said that the core of a sovereign personage's physical body was concentrated in the sovereign personage's heart. It looked like it was not just a rumor. More and more blood qi came out of the deep pit. This blood qi continuously gathered, and the pressure in the air intensified. The people of the three forbidden races had no choice but to retreat, putting some distance between them and the sovereign personage's heart blood. Lu Ming also retreated silently. After about half a day, no more blood qi came out of the deep pit. However, a drop of blood the size of a fingertip appeared in the air. This was the sovereign personage's heart blood. Of course, this could not be the complete sovereign personage's heart blood. Too much time had passed. Even if it was the sovereign personage's heart blood, a portion of it would have dissipated. Furthermore, given the strength of the Yi immortal and the three forbidden races, they could not extract the complete sovereign personage's heart blood. This drop of sovereign personage's heart blood was probably only 1/10 of the complete sovereign personage's heart blood. However, the people of the three forbidden races rejoiced. This was enough. They only needed a bit of the sovereign personage's heart blood to guide them to the sovereign personage's heart. With the sovereign personage's heart, they would have a vast amount of sovereign personage's heart blood. If they could extract the essence of the sovereign personage's heart, it would be an unparalleled tonic, more valuable than any divine medicine. Even a transcendent being would be envious. Lay down the formation and collect this drop of sovereign personage's heart blood. An Origin Realm expert from the Primordial Light clan ordered. Although only 1/10 of the human king's heart blood was complete, and after a long period of time, much of its energy had dissipated, it was still not something they could come into contact with. They had to use special methods to collect it. He needed the assistance of a formation. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. That drop of human king's heart blood in the air suddenly erupted with terrifying energy fluctuations. Then, with a bang, it exploded. The human king's heart blood had actually self-detonated. However, after the human monarch's heart blood exploded, it did not completely disperse. Instead, with the human monarch's heart blood as the core, it split into countless strands of blood. Streaks of blood fell to the ground like a spider web and fell back into the deep pit. Lines of blood appeared on the ground. The blood lines intertwined with one another to form a strange pattern. From the looks of it, it was a formation. Rumble. Then, the ground shook violently. The core of the tremors was at the center of the deep pit. What happened? Where's the human monarch's heart blood? Why did it turn into blood and fall back to the ground? The formation we laid down has also disappeared. Why is the ground suddenly shaking? It's like something deep underground is about to come out. The beings from the 3 forbidden races cried out in alarm. This scene had exceeded their expectations. Even the Yi immortals' face sank. They had not expected this. Rumble. The ground shook more and more violently, as if some colossus was about to charge out from the depths of the earth. Could it be that the human monarch's heart blood had fallen here and seeped into the depths of the earth, giving birth to some terrifying being? Many people could not help but have such a thought. Crack. Suddenly, the deep pit split open. A crack appeared, and as soon as this crack appeared, it rapidly expanded. The crack rapidly extended to both sides, as if it was tearing the earth apart. However, after a while, the crack did not continue to extend and stopped. However, a huge crack had appeared in the ground. Faint blood-red light constantly seeped out from this crack. The strands of blood on the ground gathered together again, forming the shape of a drop of blood. It rushed into the crack and disappeared. Could it be that the human monarch's heart is beneath this crack? Someone cried out in alarm. The eyes of the others flashed, feeling that this was very likely. It's very likely that this region was originally sealed, but when we were refining the human monarch's heart blood, we accidentally opened the seal. The human monarch's heart blood flew in of its own accord. It was probably attracted by the human monarch's heart. What an excellent method. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Who could have imagined that the human monarch's heart was sealed beneath his own heart blood? The 3 forbidden races and the Yi immortals speculated that the human monarch's heart was probably beneath this crack. Send people in to investigate. In the end, the 3 forbidden races decided to send people in to investigate. There was no telling what dangers lay within the crack. Those who entered had to be prepared to die. The 3 races sent a total of 9 people. Each race sent 3 people, each led by an origin. The other 2 were peak god lords. This is very likely the location of the human monarch's heart. Lu Ming also made this judgment. He had participated in several battles for the human monarch's physical body. Based on his past experience, he felt that the human monarch's physical body should be sealed here. Just as the 3 forbidden races were sending people into the crack to investigate, Lu Ming sent out a message. The message he sent was very simple. The human monarch's heart was in the 9 elements forbidden land. He had Han Yu, Mulin's, and the others think of a way to send this message to the major factions in the Western universe. Soon, the message reached Han Yu, Mulin's, and the others. Then, through their respective networks, they spread the news in an orderly manner. First, it spread through the Azure Divine Realm like a hurricane. Then, it spread to the 9 demonic spider race and the extreme evil race at an even faster speed. The 6 major factions in the Western universe were all alarmed. Human monarch Xuanyuan's heart had appeared. That was the human monarch's heart. How much was it worth? Heaven Destroyer and the heavenly human race couldn't completely estimate the value of the human monarch's heart. But how could the creatures in the Forbidden Lands not know? Human monarch Xuanyuan was so powerful that he single-handedly flattened 2 forbidden lands. He killed so many of the forbidden lands that they didn't dare to make a sound. He was unparalleled in the world, and all races bowed their heads. The value of the heart left behind by such a person was simply heaven-defying. To facilitate your next reading, you can click on the Collect button below to record this time, Chapter 5049. You can read the record when you open the bookshelf next time. If you like Myriad Dragon Emperor, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 5054. The 6 major forces in the Western universe were in an uproar. Countless experts rushed toward the 9 elements forbidden land. Lu Ming continued to hide in the dark and waited after he sent out the news. Not long after, the 9 experts who had entered the crack to investigate came out. They didn't look any different, nor did they have any injuries. Clearly, they hadn't encountered any danger in the crack. Not long after the 9 people came out, the experts of the Yi Immortal and the 3 forbidden races took action and rushed into the crack. Of course, They left behind some experts to guard the outside. If anything happened, they could inform the people in the crack immediately. Just a few days after the Yi Immortal and the others entered the crack, many experts from the 6 major forces in the Western universe arrived in advance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a large number of figures appeared in the area. Damn it, why are there so many people here? Have we been discovered? The expressions of the people from the 3 forbidden races changed drastically. Everyone, the primordial light race, the baleful Een race, and the blue sea race are here for business. Please leave. An early-stage origin expert from the primordial light race exuded a powerful aura as he shouted. Ridiculous. Does the 9 elements forbidden land belong to you 3 races? Get lost. If you stop us, we'll send you on your way. The 9 Een demonic spider, the extreme evil race, and some other experts shouted coldly. As creatures from the forbidden lands, they weren't afraid of the primordial light race, the baleful Een race, or the blue sea race. Moreover, they had come with 6 major forces, while the other party only had 3. What was there to be afraid of? Everyone, please give us some face so that we can meet again in the future. An origin expert from the blue sea race said. You want to take the human monarch's heart for yourselves, right? Ridiculous. Your territory is in the Eastern universe. You came to our Western universe and want to take our treasures for yourselves. Ridiculous. An expert from the human race shouted coldly, directly revealing the human monarch's heart. Of course, he had a motive for doing so. His motive was to provoke a conflict between the forbidden lands in the Eastern and Western universes. This would only benefit the human race. Relatively speaking, the strength of these forbidden lands was too strong. In the Western universe, there were 5 living beings from the forbidden lands. In the Eastern universe, there were 3 living beings from the forbidden lands. As for the human clan, there was only one Azure divine realm. If these living beings from the forbidden lands joined forces, the human clan would be doomed. Fortunately, the creatures of the forbidden lands were constantly fighting with each other. If they could intensify the conflict between the forbidden lands, the human race would have a chance to breathe. Sure enough, the creatures in the forbidden lands in the Western universe were in an uproar. Creatures like the 9 Een demonic spider and the extreme evil tribe were already extremely evil. They were rude and overbearing, and they would do anything for their own benefits. Why would they care about the primordial light tribe? What's the point of talking so much with them? Let's charge in. That's right. Kill anyone who stands in our way. Experts from the 9 Een demonic spider and the extreme evil tribe shouted as they charged toward the people from the primordial light tribe, the baleful Een tribe, and the blue sea tribe. At the same time, the dark sky vine tribe and the dark sky warriors also rushed toward the crack. There were at least a few thousand people from the 6 great forces in the Western universe. Among them, there were no less than 200 origin realm experts. They were only the first to arrive from the 6 great forces. Who knew how many more people were on their way? The people from the 3 forbidden lands in the Eastern universe could not stop so many experts from the Western universe. When they saw so many experts rushing toward them, they knew that they could not stop them. They roared angrily and took the lead to charge into the crack. Even if they attacked, they would only be courting death. They were very straightforward and ran away. Then, they passed the news to those who had entered the crack. Whoosh whoosh. Thousands of experts from the 6 great forces in the Western universe also charged into the crack. At this moment, Lu Ming moved as well. He turned into a bolt of lightning and followed the crowd into the crack. The crack was straight down. No one knew how deep it was. Faint red blood chi constantly seeped out from below. The further down he went, the wider the crack became. Before long, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened. As expected, there's a world under the crack. Lu Ming muttered. There was indeed a continent sealed under the crack. It was a world of its own. This was very similar to the place where the human monarch's body had been sealed. The human monarch's body had been sealed in the world of rings. It was a continent surrounded by rings of light. As for the world of rings, it had originally been sealed in the 1,000-year battlefield. When the world of rings had appeared, It had forcibly ripped apart the main continent of the thousand-year battlefield. Now that he saw the human monarch's heart sealed in a continent, he was not surprised. Perhaps the human monarch's body was too extraordinary. Only such a seal could be secure. The person who had sealed the human monarch's body had gone to great lengths. The world under the crack was very large. Lu Ming extended his spiritual sense and discovered that he could not find the end. The people who had charged in all rushed in different directions. Whoever could find the human monarch's heart first would have to depend on their luck. Several thousand people quickly disappeared into this vast world. Lu Ming also chose a direction at random and flew rapidly. At the same time, he extended his spiritual sense and observed the surroundings, guarding against danger. However, this world was completely different from the world that sealed the human monarch's body. The world of rings that sealed the human monarch's body was filled with vitality. Large numbers of desolate beasts resided there. There were even many powerful origin realm desolate beasts. Now, Lu Ming already understood that desolate beasts were similar to the Fey race. They existed in the great desolate universe as well. Strictly speaking, they were the Fey race that had not developed their intelligence. They possessed great strength but had low intelligence. They were called desolate beasts. However, although the continent before him could not be said to be dead, there were no living creatures. Even if he occasionally encountered a few living creatures, they were just ordinary wild beasts with weak strength. Lu Ming flew for a long time but did not discover any powerful desolate beasts. Suddenly, Lu Ming, who was flying, came to a sudden stop. This was because he had sensed a terrifying danger just now. There was a powerful being lurking in the dark, bearing intense hostility towards him. Who is it? Lu Ming scanned the surroundings and gave a cold shout. Your spiritual sense is rather sharp. With a sneer, the space rippled and a figure appeared out of nowhere. It was an old man in luxurious purple robes. His snow-white hair was combed neatly. However, his gaze towards Lu Ming was filled with killing intent. A human. This person was a human, not a creature of the Forbidden Grounds. Moreover, he was an origin realm expert. Who are Lu Weiyang and Pang Xiao to you? Lu Ming asked. The humans in the Azure Divine Realm were only Lu Weiyang and Pang Xiao's relatives who wanted to kill him. As for the others, Lu Ming knew that he had not offended them, so there was no reason for them to harbor such intense killing intent towards him. Chapter 50-55. Pang Xiao is my grandson, said the white-haired old man. His eyes were cold like two swords that wanted to pierce through Lu Ming. It really had something to do with Pang Xiao. He had learned that Pang Xiao's backer was not to be underestimated. There were 5 or 6 origin realm cultivators, including one above the origin realm. Even in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, Pang Xiao's clan was considered powerful. Now that an early origin realm cultivator had awakened, someone from Pang Xiao's clan had also awakened. However, he had never thought that they would target Lu Ming so quickly. Lu Ming, how dare you kill Pang Xiao? The white-haired old man shouted coldly. He circulated his origin energy and his body was enveloped by a layer of azure energy. His killing intent became even stronger. In fact, he had been targeting Lu Ming for a long time. When Shi Tianting broke through, he was at the scene and saw Lu Ming. However, he knew very well that it was not the time to make a move. Later, when Lu Ming returned to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, it was not the time to make a move. Lu Ming's talent was too great. He had broken through 4 times and was number 1 in the human race. With such talent, those origin realm cultivators in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm could not just watch Lu Ming be killed. He knew very well that it was not a good time to make a move, whether it was at the place where Shi Tianting had broken through or in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Therefore, he had been waiting secretly and finally had an opportunity. The land of 9 elements was an opportunity. As soon as he entered the crack, he had been hiding in the surroundings. When he finally saw Lu Ming enter, he secretly followed him, looking for an opportunity to make a move. However, he did not expect Lu Ming's spiritual sense to be so sharp. He had only leaked a little bit of his aura and Lu Ming had sensed it. Since he had been sensed and his sneak attack had failed, he would attack head-on. So what if he had broken through 4 times? He would still die. The white-haired old man suddenly attacked. He was too fast, like a bolt of green lightning, charging towards Lu Ming. A green palm blasted towards Lu Ming. The void collapsed as the palm energy swept towards Lu Ming. Its power was terrifying. On the green hand was a green glove that emitted a metallic luster. Without a doubt, this was a source-level divine weapon. The creatures in the Forbidden Grounds had a deep foundation, so they didn't lack soul-grade weapons. Almost all the Origin Realm existences had soul-grade weapons, unlike the Heavenly Human Clan and the Heaven Destroyer. Most of the Origin Realm existences lacked soul-grade weapons. The source energy of an source-grade divine weapon was the true source energy, and its combat prowess was formidable. Lu Ming swung his spear of the divine battle god and slammed it against the green palm. Where the two collided, the void exploded, turning into chaos and hazy. Immediately after, the two of them retreated at the same time and quickly began to fight again. Qingluo's ultimate move. The white-haired old man used his ultimate move, and his moves were terrifying. This was his Genesis art, and every move contained terrifying killing intent. He wanted to crush Lu Ming to pieces. The white-haired old man was obviously not an ordinary source energy. He had already comprehended his own Genesis art and possessed a soul-grade weapon. His combat prowess was far inferior to the weakest source energy. Back then, when the three races of the Forbidden Grounds and the Yi Immortal had attacked the Heaven Destroyer, the source energy in the Heaven Destroyer had awakened as the Starfire Source Sovereign. But the Starfire Source Sovereign was the weakest source energy. He hadn't comprehended any Genesis art, nor did he have a soul-grade weapon. In the beginning, he could only fight evenly with an invincible divine master. And source energy like the Starfire Source Sovereign was only equivalent to an invincible divine master. As for the white-haired old man, he had comprehended a Genesis art and possessed a soul-grade weapon. His combat prowess was extremely strong, far surpassing that of an invincible divine master. For a time, Lu Ming was suppressed. No wonder the old man was so confident. No matter how strong a divine master was, even if he had broken through 4 times, so what? His foundation was too weak. Bang! The two exchanged more than a dozen moves in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming was hit. His shoulder was hit by a palm, and it almost shattered. His bones were cracked, and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Lu Ming retreated rapidly. Where do you think you're going? Today is the day you die. The white-haired old man roared and chased after Lu Ming at full speed. Today, he was determined to kill Lu Ming. This was because he was also very wary. Lu Ming's talent was too terrifying. Once he broke through to the source energy realm, his combat prowess would be astonishing. For example, once Shi Tianting broke through to the source energy realm, he would be almost invincible in the initial origin realm. He did not think that Lu Ming could break through to the source energy realm like Shi Tianting. However, one should not forget that there were only a few hundred years until the end of the source energy realm. After a few hundred years, with Lu Ming's talent, he would definitely break through to the source energy realm. Once Lu Ming broke through to the source energy realm, his combat prowess would crush him. Therefore, if he could kill Lu Ming now, he could not leave it for the future. Lu Ming tried his best to resist and used all his means, but he was still no match. He kept retreating, and after more than 10 moves, he was hit again. Half of his body was split open, and he kept coughing up blood. His aura was weak. Haha, Pang Luo, don't hide anymore. Lu Ming is already heavily injured and dying. There's no need to launch a sneak attack. Let's attack together and kill him quickly so as not to attract other people. The white-haired old man's voice rang out. A sword light rushed out from the right side of Lu Ming and attacked Lu Ming. The sword light was cold and cut open the space. It was very terrifying. Without a doubt, this was another reciprocity expert. Lu Ming sneered. As expected, there were still experts from Pang Zhao's faction hiding in the dark. Pang Zhao's faction had 5 or 6 reciprocity experts. Normally, breaking through to reciprocity would become more difficult the further one progressed. As a result, early reciprocity experts were the most numerous in the reciprocity realm. The further one progressed, the fewer there were. Pang Zhao's faction had 5 or 6 reciprocity experts, so there should be more than one early reciprocity expert. Lu Ming had always wondered if there were still people lying in ambush. As expected, he had guessed correctly. There was still one more person lying in ambush, preparing to launch a sneak attack. Now that he saw Lu Ming on the verge of death and was about to be killed, there was no need for an ambush at all. He directly charged out and worked with the white-haired old man to kill Lu Ming as quickly as possible. However, Lu Ming did not panic at all. This was all an illusion. He had done it on purpose. Otherwise, how could he be so heavily injured and on the verge of death with his vitality? He could easily recover from such injuries. And now, his vitality was even more terrifying. It could not be measured by common sense. The forbidden origin power circulated, causing every cell in his body to glow. Lu Ming's injuries rapidly healed. At the same time, his body rapidly swelled, turning into a 3-foot-tall giant in an instant. A Genesis technique. Lu Ming had finally used a Genesis technique. He had not used a Genesis technique in the battle with the white-haired old man earlier because he wanted to appear weak and make the old man underestimate him. At the same time, he could lure out the person hiding in the dark. Now, Lu Ming had achieved his goal. The white-haired old man had already begun to underestimate Lu Ming when he saw that Lu Ming was on the verge of death. He believed that it was impossible for Lu Ming to counterattack. All of his power had been used on offense. The amount of power he used on defense was basically zero. Chapter 50-56. The white-haired elder poured all of his power into this attack. His azure palm glowed as essence power swirled around it. This was the manifestation of a Genesis technique pushed to the limit. He wanted to join forces with Pang Luo to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming was fearless. His 3-feet-tall body glowed, forming a thin film that adhered to Lu Ming's skin. This thin film was the ultimate manifestation of Lu Ming's various defensive secret techniques. Lu Ming had already forgotten all of the secret techniques he had mastered in the past. However, he had not completely thrown them away. These secret techniques had seeped into Lu Ming's body and fused with him, creating Lu Ming's Genesis techniques. One could say that Lu Ming's body had grown to 3 feet after using a Genesis technique. His body was the embodiment of countless secret techniques. Every inch of his body was a secret technique. All of his defensive secret techniques had transformed into this thin film. Although it was just a thin film, its defensive power was astonishingly strong. Next, the top source-grade battle armor glowed and enveloped his body. Bang! The white-haired elder's azure palm slammed into Lu Ming's heart, but failed to break through Lu Ming's defense. Lu Ming's body only staggered a little before blocking the palm. Next, the war god spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out. This spear seemed simple, but divine light swirled around it. This was another manifestation of over 1,000 offensive secret techniques. One could say that although Lu Ming's spear seemed simple, it contained the power of over 1,000 offensive ancient secret techniques. This was Lu Ming's Genesis technique. After transforming into a 3-feet-tall body, as long as he could maintain his source power, any one of his attacks would be equivalent to someone else's Genesis technique. The white-haired elder's pupils rapidly widened, revealing a look of horror. It was already too late for him to defend himself. He had not expected Lu Ming to still be able to counterattack when he was already on the verge of death. Moreover, his counterattack was so terrifying. All of his strength had been used to attack. The amount of strength he used to defend was almost zero. How could he block Lu Ming's attack? With a bang, the white-haired old man's body exploded, revealing the Genesis root within. The old man's soul screamed as he tried to escape with the origin root. But how could Lu Ming let him escape? The war god's spear trembled slightly, and a terrifying destructive force erupted, bombarding the white-haired old man's origin root. Clang! It was as if he had struck a divine weapon. The sturdiness of the Genesis root was astonishingly high. Unfortunately, it was ultimately unable to withstand Lu Ming's attack. In the next instant, the white-haired old man's Genesis root completely exploded, and the soul residing within was also completely destroyed. Originally, with the white-haired old man's battle strength, It would have been impossible for Lu Ming to kill him so easily even if Lu Ming had used a Genesis technique. After all, the white-haired old man had grasped a Genesis technique and also possessed an origin-grade weapon. Even amongst the initial origin experts, he could be considered an expert. If Lu Ming went all out, even if he was slightly stronger than the other party, it would still be very difficult to kill him. However, Lu Ming had shown weakness from the very beginning, causing the other party to be careless and underestimate him. As a result, Lu Ming was able to kill him in a single strike. The other middle-aged man was called Pang Luo. He had originally planned on joining forces with the white-haired old man to kill Lu Ming, but when he saw this scene, his guts almost shattered from fright. His entire body turned cold as he rapidly retreated. He had yet to comprehend a Genesis technique, so his battle strength was still a far cry from the white-haired old man's. How could he possibly dare to clash with Lu Ming? "It's too late to leave now." Lu Ming's indifferent voice rang out. He had purposely shown weakness earlier to make the white-haired old man underestimate him, and also to draw out the person hiding in the shadows. He wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. How could he possibly allow them to escape? As the forbidden origin power circulated, a pair of wings grew out of Lu Ming's back. The wings were golden yellow, the embodiment of all the ancient speed-type secret techniques. Combining the essence of all the ancient speed-type secret techniques, just how terrifying was his speed? Swish! With a flap of his wings, Lu Ming's body caught up to Pang Luo at a speed several times faster than lightning. It could be said that Lu Ming's overall combat strength had been raised to a terrifying level when he used Genesis techniques. From this, one could see just how terrifying the Genesis technique Lu Ming had comprehended was. This was his one and only Genesis technique, a combination of 3,000 ancient secret techniques, several tens of thousands of ordinary secret techniques, and his own forbidden origin power. Even Lu Ming himself did not have much of an idea of how powerful it was. Only through constant battles and constant use would Lu Ming be able to continuously develop the various mysteries and powers of this Genesis technique. In practically a single breath, Lu Ming had caught up to Pang Luo. The war god's spear rapidly grew in size as it slammed towards Pang Luo. "Let's die together." Pang Luo's eyes turned red when he saw that he could not escape. With a furious roar, he counterattacked with all his strength. After all, he had a source-grade divine weapon and was very powerful. However, there was still a huge gap between him and Lu Ming when he attacked with all his strength. Clang! A single move caused Pang Luo's body to violently tremble as he was sent flying backwards, blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. How can he be so strong? He's only a god master. How can he be so strong? The rumors don't match. It's impossible for someone who has broken through 4 times to possess such strength. Could it be that he has broken through 5 times? Pang Luo roared in his heart. He could not be any more shocked. Someone who had broken through 5 times was extremely rare even in the great desolate continent of the previous era. They were the main characters of an era, invincible experts that could sweep away their peers. How could there be such a monster in this era? The great desolate universe and the heart of the universe were shattered. How could there be such a monster? Pang Luo roared in his heart. Kill. Lu Ming roared as he continuously attacked. The war god's spear was surrounded by divine light and every strike seemed to be able to pierce through the universe and knock down a bunch of stars. It was too powerful. Pang Luo could not withstand it at all. In just a few moves, his body was penetrated by the war god's spear. A terrifying force exploded from within Pang Luo's body, blasting his body into pieces. His body exploded, leaving only his origin source. However, Pang Luo was far inferior to the white-haired elder. Several cracks appeared on his origin source and his origin source energy kept leaking out. Lu Ming's war god's spear swept out again. This time, Pang Luo's origin source energy completely exploded and even his soul was annihilated. At this point, both origin source energy had been killed by Lu Ming. This was the first time Lu Ming had killed origin source energy with his own battle prowess. He had killed 2 powerful origin source energy the moment he attacked. The battle prowess of these two origin source energy was not something that the Starfire Origin Sovereign could compare to. They were much stronger than the Starfire Origin Sovereign. However, they had both died at Lu Ming's hands. With a wave of his hand, their storage pouches flew into Lu Ming's hand and were put away by Lu Ming. Of course, Lu Ming did not let go of their origin source weapons either. Little Ball's appetite was very big. Even if he did not give it to Little Ball, he could still take back the Heaven Destroyer. Although the Heaven Destroyer had many origin source energy sources, it still lacked an origin source weapon. "My Genesis techniques are stronger than I imagined," muttered Lu Ming. Chapter 50-57. Lu Ming was very satisfied with his own Genesis techniques. They were stronger than he had imagined, and even more mysterious. Combining the strengths of all the ancient secret techniques, it could be said that they were very strong in every aspect, without any shortcomings. Other people's Genesis techniques were either focused on attack, defense, or speed. Being able to possess even two of these characteristics was already very astonishing. However, Lu Ming's Genesis techniques were very well-rounded in terms of defense, attack and speed, and even had other support techniques. Moreover, they were also much stronger than the ancient secret techniques he had learned before. They had no shortcomings at all. This was practically heaven-defying. If others were to learn of this, they would likely be dumbstruck. However, Lu Ming estimated that there was still a lot of room for improvement in his Genesis techniques. There was still a lot of potential that had yet to be unearthed. In truth, Genesis techniques that had just been comprehended were all about the same. They all had a lot of potential. How could a person who had just comprehended a Genesis technique be the same as an old monster who had been stuck at the origin stage for several hundred star years? Some talented people might only comprehend the first form of a Genesis technique when they had just comprehended it. Later on, they would comprehend the second form, the third form, and so on, pushing the power of the Genesis technique to greater heights. Of course, not every Genesis technique could be continuously improved. In the end, it still depended on the potential of the Genesis technique and the comprehension ability of the user. Some Genesis techniques had limited potential. No matter how much time was spent, they would not be able to improve by much. This was unless the user's comprehension ability was truly heaven-defying, able to turn something rotten into something magical. Of course, such examples were extremely rare, but they were not completely non-existent. Lu Ming reflected on the previous battle, summarizing his experience. His figure then flashed, leaving the area and continuing in his original direction. In the next 2 days, Lu Ming did not find anything. This world was just too big. Lu Ming did not have any direction. After searching for 2 days, he still did not find anything. There were only some ordinary plants and wild beasts in this world. There was nothing else, and he did not find any clues about the human king's heart. In fact, he did not even come across anyone else. It was obvious that this world was just too big. With several thousand people scattered throughout, it would not be easy to come across them. However, Lu Ming estimated that there were more than a few thousand people who had entered this world. The experts from the 6 great powers in the Western universe were still rushing over. In the past 2 days, even more experts had entered the forbidden land of 9 elements. That is, suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes widened. In front of them, there was a red pillar of light that shot straight into the sky. The red pillar of light illuminated half of the sky. It could be seen even from far away. Vaguely, one could see a stalk of divine medicine dancing in the red pillar of light. A top-notch source-grade divine medicine. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was all too familiar with top-tier source-grade divine herbs. He could tell at a glance that it was a top-tier source-grade divine herb. That pillar of light was most likely emitted by a top-tier source-grade divine herb. The divine herb in the pillar of light was only an illusory image. It was most likely a reflection of a top-tier source-grade divine herb. This world actually had top-notch source-level divine medicines, which made Lu Ming very surprised. Moreover, Lu Ming was a little suspicious. Why would a top-notch source-grade divine herb emit such a pillar of light? Top-notch source-grade divine herbs had always been very low-key. If they were too high profile, they would be taken away by other creatures. Why would a top-notch source-grade divine herb that had always been low-key be like this? Was there a problem? However, the temptation of a top-notch source-grade divine herb was too great. In the end, Lu Ming decided to take a look first. Lu Ming rushed in that direction. Soon he approached the pillar of light. Get out of the way. The top-notch source-grade divine herb is mine. Many people had arrived earlier than Lu Ming and were already fighting with each other. Lu Ming saw a basin in front of him. In the middle of the basin, there was a blood-red altar that looked ancient and weathered. Not far from the altar was a stalk of divine medicine. It was also blood-red and half a meter tall. There were 2 fruits on it, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. Even though Lu Ming was still a distance away, he could smell the medicinal fragrance. It was a top-notch source-grade divine herb. There was no doubt about it. There were more than a dozen people in the field, mixed together. These people came from 3 different forces: the 9 demonic spider, the extreme evil tribe, and the heavenly vine. However, there were no experts among them, not even a single origin. They were all divine masters. The strongest among them was only at the 2nd break extreme realm. Lu Ming smiled. It seemed that there were no experts in this area. There were only a few divine masters. Then he was determined to get this top-notch source-grade divine herb. Lu Ming no longer concealed himself. He took a step forward and a powerful aura spread out. Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. The dozen people in the melee were shocked when they saw Lu Ming. Lu Ming was a monster who could compete with Shi Tianting. How could they not be afraid? Get out! Lu Ming shouted coldly. The faces of the dozen people at the scene turned ugly. However, they did not dare to fight with Lu Ming. Even if they joined forces, they would not be Lu Ming's match. They would be easily killed by Lu Ming. The difference between the 2nd break extreme realm and the 4th break extreme realm was too big. Let's go! In the end, the Dark Sky Vine tribe was the first to leave. Then, the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil tribe left one after another. Lu Ming did not stop them. If he attacked, he could naturally kill all of them. However, he had no grudge against the Dark Sky Vine tribe. Shi Tianting had helped him before. He had no reason to kill the Dark Sky Vine tribe. If he did not kill the Dark Sky Vine tribe, the news would spread if he killed the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil tribe. Although he had a grudge against the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil tribe, he only had a grudge against one of the 2 tribes. He did not have a grudge against all of them. However, if he killed the people of the 2 tribes as soon as he saw them, he would really have a grudge against the 2 tribes. Lu Ming was already at a disadvantage against the Primordial Light tribe, the Blue Sea tribe, and the Malevolent Yin tribe. He did not want to make more enemies if there was no need. After all, there were only a few hundred years left until the Origin Tribulation. After the people of the 3 tribes left, Lu Ming rushed toward the top source-level divine herb. The strange thing was that the top source-level divine herb did not run away. This puzzled Lu Ming. He could not help but stop and observe carefully. He did not attack immediately. How disappointing. It actually ended without a fight. Brat, you've spoiled my plans. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Lu Ming immediately located the location of the voice. It came from the blood-red altar. The blood-red light on the altar became even more intense. Then, a figure appeared on the altar. The figure was in the shape of a human, but it was clearly not a physical body. It was illusory, as if it was a soul. Chapter 50-58. The figure that appeared on the blood-red altar was blood-red in color. It wasn't a physical body, but a soul. His blood-red eyes stared at Lu Ming with greed. I can feel that you have a powerful soul. Very well, it's enough to make up for the loss of those people. The blood-red figure let out an ear-piercing cry, like a demon from hell. Then he pounced on Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming snorted coldly. He circulated his taboo force, and the war god's spear suddenly swept out. The void trembled and collapsed as it swept toward the blood-red figure with terrifying power. Boom! The war god's spear struck the blood-red figure, causing his body to tremble as he retreated. However, the greed in his eyes grew even more intense. Zhao spoke, "What strength, but he still has to die." After saying that, the blood-red figure rushed toward Lu Ming again at an even more astonishing speed. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming attacked continuously, and powerful forces continued to attack his opponent. However, this time, the blood-red figure kept dodging Lu Ming's attacks at an astonishing speed. He quickly approached Lu Ming and slapped out. A palm force whizzed out, rushing toward Lu Ming. It was so fast that even Lu Ming couldn't avoid it. With a bang, Lu Ming was hit by the palm, causing him to retreat quickly. What a strange palm force. It can actually ignore the defense of a top-tier source-grade battle armor and directly attack the soul. Lu Ming's mind turned rapidly. He realized that the blood-red figure's attack wasn't aimed at the physical body, but the soul. The palm force just now directly penetrated Lu Ming's defense and attacked Lu Ming's soul. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's soul was scattered in the cells of his body. The opponent's palm force couldn't focus on Lu Ming's soul at all. It could only attack a small portion of the soul in the cells. It had almost no effect on Lu Ming. However, the blood-red figure didn't know that. He thought that Lu Ming had been hit and that his soul had been severely damaged. He screamed and charged toward Lu Ming, wanting to finish off Lu Ming once and for all. Lu Ming deliberately pretended to be injured. When the blood-red figure approached, Lu Ming used a Genesis technique and raised his battle strength to the peak. The war god's spear was like a mountain range, suppressing the blood-red figure. This time, the blood-red figure let out a scream as his body was directly scattered. Lu Ming, who had cast the Genesis technique, was too powerful. It had exceeded the limits of what the blood-red figure could withstand. This time, the blood-red figure was severely injured. The blood-red figure's body was torn apart, but it was not dead yet. The torn pieces of its body quickly retreated and gathered together not too far away. However, it was clear that he was severely injured. His body had become much more illusory, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. His aura had also become much weaker. Why isn't your soul? Why isn't it? No, it's not that there's no soul, it's just scattered. What's going on? The blood-red figure roared, unable to figure it out. Generally speaking, the soul of a person below the origin realm resided in the sea of consciousness. Only after reaching the origin realm would the soul reside in the Genesis root and use the origin power in the Genesis root to nourish the soul. Time to send you on your way. Lu Ming coldly shouted as he strode forward. The war god's spear once again slammed down, enveloping the blood-red figure. The blood-red figure was already injured and couldn't avoid the attack. It was struck again, and the body that had just reunited was once again shattered into pieces. However, the blood-red figure's vitality was really tenacious. After being shattered again, it still didn't die and reunited not far away. Its aura was even more withered, and its body was even more illusory, as if it could collapse at any time. Die! Lu Ming's killing intent soared into the sky as he continued to attack. No matter how tenacious one's vitality was, it would be completely destroyed under the constant attacks. Don't kill me, let me go, I can help you. The blood-red figure was finally afraid and loudly begged for mercy. However, Lu Ming was unmoved, and the war god's spear continued to press down. I know you're here to find the human king's heart. I can help you find it. The blood-red figure continued to roar. Lu Ming's attack suddenly stopped. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with bewilderment as he stared at the blood-red figure and said, "You can help me find the human king's heart?" That's right. I entered this place countless years ago to find the human king's heart. I've already found the location of the human king's heart. The blood-red figure shouted. Do you think I'll believe you? How could Lu Ming believe the other party so easily? I'm telling the truth. I'm also a human. Why would I lie to you? The blood-red figure shouted. On this point, the other party didn't lie, and there was no need for him to speak. Lu Ming could sense from the other party's soul fluctuation that the other party was indeed a human. Tell me in detail, what's your origin? Why are you here? Lu Ming asked. Immediately, the blood-red figure started to explain in detail. The blood-red figure was called Guqian. He was a human during the era of the prehistoric continent. Later on, the prehistoric continent collapsed and he was lucky enough to survive. Moreover, he and his companions found the place where the human king's heart was sealed. Using a special method, they entered this place and found the place where the human king's heart was sealed. According to Guqian, they were humans. The human king's heart was a heaven-defying opportunity for them. It could help them continuously transform, evolve, and purify their bloodline. It could even help them break through the immortal Tao and smoothly transcend. Unfortunately, greed blinded their eyes. He was betrayed by his companions. The two of them broke out into a fierce battle. In the end, although Guqian managed to kill his companions, he himself was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Only a wisp of his remnant soul survived until now. Originally, seeing that Lu Ming was also a human, he wanted to devour Lu Ming's soul to make up for himself. Unexpectedly, although Lu Ming was only a divine master, his combat strength was beyond imagination. Lu Ming carefully thought about Guqian's words and found that everything was very reasonable and there were no flaws. Lead the way. Lead me to the human king's heart and I can let you go. Of course, if you want to play any tricks, I will completely obliterate you. Lu Ming said coldly. Don't worry, I won't play any tricks. I only beg you to let me go. Of course, it would be best if you can take me away from here. Guqian said. All right, lead the way. Lu Ming said. Of course, Lu Ming could not completely trust the other party. He was still secretly on guard against the other party. Although Guqian's attack did not have any effect on him, who knew what kind of strange methods this old monster would have? Naturally, he had to be on guard. All right, follow me. I will lead you to the human king's heart. After Guqian finished speaking, he turned around and flew in a direction. The moment he turned around, an extremely cold, killing intent flashed across Guqian's eyes. There was also a mocking smile. It was very obscure and disappeared in a flash. Lu Ming did not notice it. Chapter 50-59. The direction that Guqian was leading was almost the same as the direction that Lu Ming was heading. This meant that Lu Ming's luck was pretty good and he had not gone in the wrong direction. Half a day later, they had already covered a large distance. Suddenly, shwa shwa, a powerful aura burst out as several figures appeared on the horizon and rushed toward Lu Ming. Even though they were still some distance away, the powerful aura had already locked onto Lu Ming. 9 demonic spider. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The newcomers were the experts of the 9 demonic spider race. Among them, there were 2 origins and 3 divine lords. Lu Ming even recognized one of them. It was Zhu Tian. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. To think that they would meet here. The 2 origins of the 9 demonic spider had already locked onto Lu Ming. Moreover, their speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in front of Lu Ming. The 2 origins surrounded Lu Ming, one on the left and one on the right. Then, Zhu Tian and the other 2 divine lords came to a stop not far away. Lu Ming, you can hide today, but can you hide forever? Today is the day of your death. Letting you sleep in the sealed place of the human king's heart is also your fortune. Zhu Tian said, his face extremely cold and his eyes filled with cold, killing intent. He hated Lu Ming to the core. Back then, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming and was forced to wander the universe. Not only that, Lu Ming had also used him and the 9 demonic spider race to exchange for 2 top-grade soul-level divine medicines. He had long become a laughingstock. Over the years, his inner demons had been growing, making it difficult for his cultivation to progress. Only by killing Lu Ming could he get rid of his inner demons. Seniors, don't kill him yet. Cripple him completely. I want to kill him with my own hands. Zhu Tian said. If he did not kill Lu Ming with his own hands, he would not be able to get rid of his inner demons. Don't worry, he will definitely die. One of the 9 demonic spiders said coldly, full of confidence. He had the right to be confident. He wasn't an ordinary source. Not only did he possess a source-grade divine weapon, but he had also comprehended Genesis techniques. Even if Lu Ming had broken through 4 times, he was confident that he could suppress him. Furthermore, the other origin was no weaker than him. If the two of them joined hands, Lu Ming would definitely die. Kill. Lu Ming suddenly shouted and took the initiative to attack. He blasted out 2 moves and then rushed in a certain direction. Lu Ming did not use any Genesis techniques. Instead, he feigned an attack before breaking through in a certain direction. No one knew that he already had the battle prowess of someone who had broken through 5 times. This was his greatest advantage. First, he would let the other party underestimate him. Then, he would suddenly explode and deal a fatal blow to the other party. Don't even think about leaving. Little thief, you want to break through? Dream on. The 2 source-level cultivators shouted loudly, attacking with all their strength, unleashing their most powerful attacks. Both of them were existences who had comprehended Genesis techniques. Coupled with the power of their source-grade divine weapons, their all-out attack was extremely terrifying. Even a monster who had broken through 4 times wouldn't be able to withstand it and would be seriously injured. Lu Ming was no match for them and was seriously injured. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood as his figure retreated. A peerless monster is nothing more than this. Cripple him. The 2 source-level cultivators shouted coldly and ruthlessly as they continued to attack. They wanted to completely cripple Lu Ming. My chance is here. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. The 2 source-level cultivators of the 9-in demonic spider saw that Lu Ming was seriously injured and regarded Lu Ming as a fish on the chopping block. They no longer took Lu Ming seriously. That's right, they had clearly estimated the battle prowess of someone who had broken through 4 times. Lu Ming was indeed no longer a threat. They would never have dreamed that Lu Ming had broken through 5 times. The main reason was that it was too rare to break through 5 times. Even during the primeval continent era, there weren't many people who could achieve it. Most of the time, there wouldn't be a single person in an era. Only in a great era would there be several people on the same level. That was during the primeval continent era and was far from what the current era could compare to. It was already a miracle for someone to break through 4 times in the current era. In fact, Shi Tianting and Wu Ju weren't people of this era. They had been sealed countless years ago until now. In this era, before Lu Ming appeared, there was no existence of someone who had broken through 4 times. Breaking through 4 times was already a miracle, let alone 5 times. Therefore, they believed that Lu Ming was seriously injured and didn't have the strength to fight back. They had completely calculated Lu Ming's strength. No matter what, he wouldn't be able to make any waves. This was exactly the same as the white-haired elder of the Pang family. Qiu Qiu. Qiu Qiu flew out and a beam of light shot towards one of the source-level cultivators. It was Qiu Qiu's ultimate move, the illusory light beam. Qiu Qiu's cultivation had reached peak Godmaster a long time ago and he had been accumulating over the years. Back in the Violet Heaven, he had devoured a large number of damaged weapons. Some of the damaged weapons were of extremely high grades and were unfathomable. He had also devoured a large number of metal materials. After leaving the Violet Heaven, Lu Ming would feed Qiu Qiu whenever he found a damaged weapon that he could no longer use. If it were not for the fact that he was in the midst of a crisis, Qiu Qiu would have broken through long ago and reached reciprocity. Qiu Qiu's constitution was extremely special. As long as he had enough metal materials or weapons to devour, he could constantly evolve and break through. Although Qiu Qiu's cultivation had not broken through after all these years, he had been constantly accumulating and accumulating. The quantitative change had reached a qualitative change, and his strength had been constantly increasing. However, Lu Ming had improved even faster in the past few years. Many times, there was no room for Qiu Qiu to perform. In reality, Qiu Qiu's current battle prowess was extremely impressive. He probably possessed the strength to break through 3 times. In particular, the power of the illusory light beam was even more profound. Even origin realm existences would be greatly affected if they were enveloped by it. The origin realm being enveloped by the illusory light beam was immediately dazed for a split second. That split second was enough to decide life and death. The moment Qiu Qiu attacked, Lu Ming had already used a Genesis technique. He grew to 3 feet tall and struck with his spear, turning into a dazzling, eternal and indestructible spear that stabbed towards the origin realm, being enveloped by the illusory light beam. The spear directly pierced his opponent's dantian and stabbed into his origin realm. The origin realm being of the 9 demonic spider had never imagined that Lu Ming would be able to unleash such a terrifying attack. As a result, it was already too late for him to send his soul into the roots of his origin realm. Crack, bang. The origin realm being directly blasted apart. Even his soul had been completely destroyed. It seemed like only a hole had been pierced through his opponent's dantian, but in reality he no longer possessed any signs of life. His soul had been completely destroyed. Lu Ming did not stop at all after piercing his soul. He rapidly retreated, charging towards another origin realm being and throwing a punch. Lu Ming's fist was surrounded by rays of divine light. They were all formed from various secret techniques and possessed terrifying power. Even without the war god's spear, Lu Ming's punch was enough to shatter space and destroy countless stars. The origin realm being resisted with all his strength, but he was unable to do so. He was sent flying, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Even his arm had exploded. Chapter 50-60. Lu Ming roared as he clenched his fist. The war god's spear flew back into his hand and swept out. Forbidden origin power poured into the war god's spear, causing it to tremble as if a terrifying power was about to awaken. In reality, forbidden origin power was no small matter. Although Lu Ming hadn't broken through the origin power, the forbidden origin power could already make the war god's spear erupt with a little power. Boom! The war god's spear pressed down and the 9 demonic spider's second origin power was directly blown apart. Its body was torn to pieces and even its genesis root was covered in cracks. No, the origin power's terrified roar rang out from the genesis root. But it was useless. Lu Ming circulated his forbidden origin power and the war god's spear trembled. Violent power rushed out and completely destroyed the origin power of the origin power, causing its soul to dissipate. In the distance, Zhu Tian and the others were stunned. What did they just see? 2 powerful origin powers of the 9 demonic spider had been killed just like that. They were 2 origin powers that had comprehended Genesis techniques and were extremely powerful. They could definitely be considered experts at the initial Genesis realm, but they had both died in Lu Ming's hands in an instant. Their eyes widened. At first, they were in disbelief, then endless fear. Swish! Zhu Tian's reaction was the fastest. He turned around and fled. He didn't call out to the other 2. The only thought in his mind was to escape and get as far away from Lu Ming as possible. It would be best if the other 2 couldn't react in time. They could still delay Lu Ming and give him a chance to escape. Zhu Tian raised his speed to the highest level he had ever reached. Unfortunately, it was useless. Lu Ming thrust out his spear. The war god's spear rapidly expanded like a pillar of the world. It filled the sky and pressed down on Zhu Tian and the other 2 9 demonic spider god masters, enveloping them under the war god's spear. Zhu Tian and the others roared and used all their strength to resist. Zhu Tian raised his battle strength to the highest level he had ever reached. In this life and death crisis, Zhu Tian felt like he was about to break through his limit and reach the 4th stage of the extreme break stage. But it was too late. The difference in combat power between them and Lu Ming was too great. Of the 2 almighty, one had broken through the 2nd level of the extreme break stage, and the other had only broken through the 1st level of the extreme break stage. The difference between them and Lu Ming's combat prowess was like night and day. Bang! Bang! The 2 divine masters exploded one after another, their bodies and souls destroyed. Then came Zhu Tian. His body also exploded, but his soul did not disperse immediately. He let out a mournful roar, "I can't accept this, I can't accept this." Zhu Tian was extremely unwilling. He was already on the verge of breaking through to the 4th stage of the extreme break. In time, he would definitely be able to break through to the 4th stage. If he could break through to the 4th stage of the extremity breakthrough, he could learn from Celestial Vine and break through to the Essence Tribulation. Then, he would be able to transcend and achieve the Tao of immortality. But now he was about to die. He would be reduced to ashes and nothing would be left. 5 times of extreme break. Now, he already knew that Lu Ming had most likely broken through 5 times. He couldn't figure out how Lu Ming could break through the extreme break stage 5 times. How could he be so powerful? He wanted to inform the other members of the 9-Shade Demonic Spider of this news so that the 9-Shade Demonic Spider would go all out to kill Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming completely before Lu Ming rose to power. Unfortunately, he had no chance. Boom. The War God's spear pressed down and Zhu Tian was reduced to ashes. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed Zhu Tian and the others' storage bags and source-level divine weapons in his hand. After checking, Lu Ming was overjoyed. He had made a fortune. Zhu Tian's set of source-level divine weapons were all top source-level divine weapons. There were also 6 ordinary source-level divine weapons. The creatures in the Forbidden Grounds were rich and unbelievably rich. Qiu, here you go. Lu Ming threw a source-level divine weapon to Qiu and Qiu swallowed it. It was just an ordinary source-level divine weapon. Lu Ming didn't care. Moreover, the more Qiu swallowed, the more it accumulated, and its strength would become stronger. It was also very beneficial for Lu Ming. Just now, without Qiu's help, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to defeat the 2 origins so easily. Without Qiu, even if the other party was careless, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to kill 1 origin in 1 move. If he spent a few moves to kill a source origin, the other source origin would realize what had happened and stop underestimating him. If the other party wasn't careless and fought Lu Ming with all his strength, it would be impossible for Lu Ming to kill the other party easily. In that case, Zhu Tian and the others could take the opportunity to escape. In the distance, Gu Qian drilled out of the ground. In fact, before the people of the 9-Yin Demonic Spider arrived, Gu Qian had drilled into the ground, showing Gu Qian's amazing senses. The people of the 9-Yin Demonic Spider didn't notice Gu Qian. Lead the way. Lu Ming said coldly. Okay, come with me. Gu Qian said and continued to lead the way. However, not long after Lu Ming and the others left, another figure drilled out of the ground. This figure was blood red, like a soul. It looked exactly like Gu Qian. The only difference was the soul aura. The aura of this Gu Qian was very similar to the aura of the 9-Yin Demonic Spider. Judging from the aura of his soul, he seemed to be a member of the 9-Yin Demonic Spider. Kid, no matter how strong your talent is, you're still fooled by this seat. Sooner or later, this seat will devour your soul and extract your blood. The Gu Qian behind him sneered. In the surroundings, strands of invisible energy gathered towards Gu Qian. This invisible energy was the souls of the 9-Yin Demonic Spider experts that Lu Ming had just killed. These people's souls had already been torn apart by Lu Ming, but the energy of the remnant souls wouldn't dissipate in a short time. At this time, all of them were being devoured by Gu Qian. Gu Qian turned the remnant souls into his own nourishment. His body emitted light and slowly became more solid. His aura also became stronger. Kid, continue to hunt for tonics for me, the Gu Qian sneered, then drilled into the ground and disappeared. The reason why Lu Ming had encountered Zhu Tian and the others before was all because of Gu Qian. Gu Qian had purposely led the way so that the 2 of them would meet and kill each other. He had benefited from this. Not long after, Lu Ming encountered another group of people. They were experts of the Yuanguang clan. Lu Ming, why are you here? Someone from the Yuanguang clan shouted in disbelief. When he saw Lu Ming, it was as if he had seen a ghost. This person was Yuan Siji. He would never have dreamed that Lu Ming would appear here. Wasn't Lu Ming in the Eastern Universe? When had he come to the Western Universe? He's Lu Ming. Kill him. Someone beside Yuan Siji said coldly with a murderous aura. This was an origin source expert. In reality, there were dozens of people beside Yuan Siji. Among them, there were at least a dozen origin source experts. At this moment, these people all unleashed their auras and stared at Lu Ming. Their murderous auras surged as they charged towards Lu Ming. The origin source experts of the Yuanguang clan had heard of Lu Ming's name as soon as they had awakened. Chapter 5061. Lu Ming had once killed his way to the Primordial Light clan and snatched many top-notch source-level divine herbs from them. He had forced the Primordial Light clan's origin to awaken at the cost of its life in order to stall Lu Ming. A mere divine master had actually made a dignified Forbidden Land suffer such a huge loss. It could be said that the Primordial Light tribe's reputation had been tarnished. Even in the Primordial Desolation continent of the previous era, the Primordial Light tribe had rarely suffered such a loss. Did he think that he was the human monarch? Therefore, these origin sources had a strong desire to kill Lu Ming. When they heard that this person was Lu Ming, they immediately charged towards Lu Ming. There are so many experts. It's not good to fight them head-on. I'd better run. Lu Ming's heart stirred. His body moved like a bolt of lightning as he rapidly retreated in another direction. There were more than a dozen origin sources in the Primordial Light clan. The creatures of the Forbidden Land did not lack source-grade divine weapons. Needless to say, most of these origin sources had source-grade divine weapons. Their battle power was not something that the Starfire Origin Venerate could compare to. If a few of them had comprehended Genesis techniques, their battle power would not be much weaker than his. What if there were even stronger existences? Lu Ming was most likely not a match for so many origin sources. If he was really surrounded by them, he would most likely be killed if there were any geniuses among them. Therefore, Lu Ming left without hesitation. He would be a fool not to run in the face of so many unknown experts. Where do you think you're going? Fight me. Coward! The origin sources of the Primordial Light clan roared from behind. If you have the ability, let's fight at the same level. Lu Ming's disdainful voice rang out. His body did not stop at all. He was faster than a bolt of lightning as he traversed hundreds of thousands of miles in an instant. Lu Ming's speed was now astonishing. Although the Primordial Light clan members were also very fast, they could not catch up to Lu Ming. Lu Ming successfully escaped. Damn it, this kid's strength is becoming more and more terrifying. If there's a chance, we must get rid of him. Yuan Siji's face darkened. When we obtain the human monarch's heart, it will be his death. One Origin's face darkened. In the end, the members of the Primordial Light tribe left helplessly. After these people left, another figure drilled out from the ground, and it was precisely Guqian that possessed the same aura as the 9-yin demonic spider. Damn it, they actually didn't fight. Damn it. Guqian roared, his face gloomy. Needless to say, Lu Ming was able to encounter the Primordial Light clan because of Guqian. What they hadn't expected was that the fearless Lu Ming would actually run away when he saw the members of the Primordial Light tribe. This had foiled his plan to devour the remnant souls. You can run for the first time, but can you run for the 15th? Guqian said coldly, then drilled back into the ground. I've been scouting alone for a few days before, but I didn't encounter anyone. Why do I keep bumping into them? Lu Ming pondered. This was somewhat strange. There were only a few thousand people from each faction in total. They were too scattered when they entered this vast place. Lu Ming had scouted for a few days and had not encountered anyone else. Why would he encounter the 9-yin demonic spider and the Primordial Light tribe now? Could it be a coincidence? Perhaps it was because he was close to the place where the human sovereign's body was sealed? For a moment, Lu Ming couldn't figure it out. Under Guqian's guidance, Lu Ming continued to move forward. However, not long after, Lu Ming encountered another group of people. It was the members of the malevolent Yin tribe. This time, there weren't many experts from the malevolent Yin tribe. There were only 4 or 5 origin source experts. However, Lu Ming didn't fight with them. He also turned around and left, shaking off the malevolent Yin tribe. There's really something wrong. I keep bumping into them. Speaking of which, ever since I met Guqian, I've been encountering strong enemies. Lu Ming's mind raced. Could it really be that old man's doing? But he's not far from me. How could he do that? Lu Ming couldn't figure it out. However, he was even more wary of Guqian. Later on, he encountered people from other factions again and again. However, Lu Ming didn't care if they were strong or weak. He turned around and left. He couldn't be bothered to fight with them. He vaguely felt that something wasn't right. If he fought with them, he might be tricked. This brat is really as cunning as a fox. However, if you don't fight, there will naturally be others who will. Gu Qian, who had the aura of the 9-in demonic spider, looked at the direction Lu Ming left with a cold gaze. In fact, it was indeed so. During this period, the people from various factions had encountered each other and fought. Every time there was a great battle, someone would die. When the great battle ended and the people who fought left, a figure would emerge from the ground and absorb the remnant souls between heaven and earth. This figure was exactly the same as Gu Qian. However, the aura of their souls was different. Some of the figures had the aura of the extreme evil tribe, some of the origin light tribe, and some of the malevolent Yin tribe. He was constantly absorbing the energy of the remnant souls to strengthen his body. Everyone was kept in the dark. This was because Gu Qian said that he knew the place where the human king's heart was sealed and wanted to take them there to find it. Many powerful experts had a Gu Qian beside them. Of course, this was because these experts were strong enough that Gu Qian couldn't deal with them. For those that Gu Qian could deal with, Gu Qian directly killed them and devoured their souls. A terrifying conspiracy was slowly unfolding, but no one discovered it. Lu Ming only felt suspicious. Gu Qian, where is the place where the human king's heart is sealed? When will we arrive? Lu Ming stared at Gu Qian with an unfriendly gaze. We'll be there soon. It's not far ahead. Although Gu Qian was cursing Lu Ming in his heart, he still deliberately revealed a smile on his face. You'd better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll completely obliterate you. Lu Ming threatened and let Gu Qian continue to lead the way. Sure enough, not long after, Gu Qian stopped and said, "We've arrived at the place where the human king's heart is sealed." In front of them was the endless, boundless mountain range. Numerous, incomparably huge mountains towered into the sky. At a glance, they were all perfectly straight mountain peaks, like numerous divine swords that were stabbed into the ground. This is the place where the human king's heart is sealed. The human king's heart is sealed in the center of this mountain range. However, this mountain range is enveloped by a terrifying sealing formation. This formation not only seals the human king's body but also isolates everything. No living being will be able to enter. Gu Qian explained. Lu Ming circulated the Fiend King's imperial mark and saw that this vast land was indeed covered in runes. The densely packed runes intertwined and extended forward, covering this land. Gu Qian was right about this. This land was indeed sealed, isolating everything. No living being would be able to enter. However, due to the passage of too much time, this sealing formation still had a problem. There was a loophole. Lu Ming circulated the Fiend King's imperial mark, and the loophole of this sealing formation appeared before Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. This sealing formation could not stop him. He could enter through these loopholes. Chapter 5062. Lu Ming was confident that he could use the Demon King the Archrune to find the loopholes and enter the sealing formation. Lu Ming, let me tell you. Countless years ago, my companions and I spent a lot of effort before we finally cracked this sealing formation. It was also because of this that my companions became greedy and attacked me, wanting to take the human monarch's heart for themselves. Sigh. When he spoke up to here, Gu Qian let out a long sigh, and then he continued. So, only I will be able to lead you through this sealing formation and obtain the mortal king's heart. The implication was obvious. You have to rely on me. Otherwise, you can forget about obtaining the human monarch's heart. Lu Ming did not point it out. He wanted to see what kind of tricks Gu Qian had up his sleeve. After all, he had the Demon King the Archrune and could see the danger at any time. Moreover, even if they entered the sealing formation, they did not know what they would face later. Gu Qian might be of use to them. Therefore, Lu Ming did not want to kill Gu Qian yet. He might be of use to him for the time being. Follow me. Gu Qian glanced at Lu Ming and then flew forward, rushing towards the mountain range ahead. Lu Ming scanned with the Demon King the Archrune and found that there was nothing wrong with the path Gu Qian took. He immediately followed. Just as Lu Ming and the others arrived at the mountain range, many other people had also arrived. The Primordial Light Tribe, the Baleful Yin Tribe, the Blue Sea Tribe, the 9-in Demonic Spider, the extreme evil tribe, almost all the major factions had sent people. These people were not gathered together. They were all scattered. There were groups of 3 to 5 people, 7 to 8 people, and at most a few dozen people. This place was very big. When the various factions entered, they did not know where to go. They did not know where the human monarch's heart was, so they naturally spread out and searched in different directions in groups of 3 to 5. This way, it would be easier to find the human monarch's heart. These people all had one thing in common, and that was that there was a Gu Qian beside them. Moreover, Gu Qian's aura was the same as theirs. He seemed to be of the same clan. For example, Gu Qian, who was standing beside the extreme evil race's experts, had a soul aura that seemed to belong to the extreme evil race. Gu Qian's explanation of the extreme evil race was very similar to what Lu Ming had told them. He had only changed it a little. He had changed it to say that he was an elder of the extreme evil race who had come here with his companions to search for the human king's heart. In the end, he had been betrayed by his companions, leaving behind only a remnant soul that could lead them to the heart. In front of people from other factions, he naturally changed it slightly and used it the same way. Follow me. I've already thoroughly studied this sealing formation. Only I can bring you through this sealing formation and find the human monarch's heart. Each of the Gu Qians said the same thing. Then, they took the lead and entered the grand sealing array. The others followed Gu Qian into the sealing grand array. For example, a group of people from the extreme evil race followed Gu Qian into the sealing formation. There were 6 early reciprocity experts in this group and over a dozen godly lords. They could be regarded as powerful. They followed Gu Qian and entered the sealing formation. Of course, they did not dare to be careless and remained vigilant. Gu Qian, who was leading the way, had a gloomy look in his eyes. Killing intent flashed through his eyes. Half an hour later, they had already crossed one mountain after another. Just as they passed by another mountain, a mountain suddenly burst with multicolored light. A few terrifying rays of light shot toward the people of the extreme evil race like divine swords. Not good. Danger. Get out of the way. An origin expert roared and quickly retreated. However, it was too late. The rays of light flashed. They were too fast and contained boundless power. The dozen godly lords were directly cut in half at the waist. Their souls were also severed. They died on the spot. Even among the origin experts, there were 2 origin experts who did not retreat in time and were struck by the rays of light. Even with their strength, it was useless. No matter how hard they tried, it was useless. The rays of light directly cut them in half and crushed their origin roots. In an instant, 2 origin experts and over a dozen godly lords had died. Only 4 origin experts reacted in time. They retreated from the mountain range by a hair's breadth and avoided this attack. However, they were also covered in cold sweat. Damn it! What's going on? Gu Qian, didn't you say that you would lead the way and there would be no danger? Why is the formation attacking us? The remaining 4 origin experts of the extreme evil race glared at Gu Qian. What a pity! What a pity! You actually escaped. However, you've already entered the formation. Even if you're not killed, you won't be able to find your way out. Stay here forever. Gu Qian sneered. His eyes were filled with killing intent. You're lying to us. You've always been lying to us. An origin expert roared. Now, how could they not understand that they had been tricked? They had been tricked by Gu Qian. It was obvious that Gu Qian had purposely led them to a dead end and triggered the sealing formation's fatal attack. It was obvious that this sealing formation was not to be underestimated. Not only did it possess peerless sealing power, but it also contained killing power. This was normal. This was a formation that sealed the human king's heart. Its level was shockingly high. Even if it was a pure sealing formation, as long as it had a slight offensive power, it would be incomparably terrifying. It was not something that they could resist. How dare you dream of getting your hands on the human king's heart? You all deserve to die. You should all become my nourishment. Gu Qian shouted coldly. His face was ferocious. His body glowed. The remnant souls of the extreme evil race that had just died gathered towards Gu Qian and were absorbed by him. He's absorbing the remnant souls to strengthen himself. Kill him. The remaining 4 origin experts of the extreme evil race roared. Their killing intent was cold as they charged towards Gu Qian. These 4 origin experts were very powerful. Needless to say, they all had origin-grade divine weapons. Moreover, 3 of them had comprehended origin techniques. When the 4 of them joined forces, their power was terrifying. If they were in the universe, they could destroy a galaxy and destroy one star after another. However, Gu Qian's figure flashed and retreated 10,000 meters. Then, dense runes appeared on the ground. They blocked all the attacks of the 4 extreme evil race experts. This is within the sealing formation. How dare you dream of killing me? Ridiculous. Gu Qian sneered and continued to absorb the remnant souls. Wisps of remnant souls were absorbed by Gu Qian. His body gradually became more solid, and his aura became stronger. Damn it! The 4 extreme evil race experts roared. However, they could not do anything to Gu Qian. They could not break the sealing formation. They could not find a loophole in the sealing formation. They could not move an inch. They were trapped. After a while, Gu Qian had absorbed all the remnant souls. All of you can stay here forever. The human king's heart is mine. I will kill whoever dares to snatch it from me. Back then, that fellow wanted to split it equally with me. Didn't he also die? I have thousands of clones. When all of my clones are strong enough to gather together, all of you will die. Gu Qian laughed. His figure flashed and he left. Chapter 5063. Gu Qian left. The 4 origin realm experts of the extreme fiend race were furious, but they couldn't chase after him. They had been trapped. This place was covered in runes. As long as they moved, the runes would flash and trap them. Apart from that mountain, there was no danger anywhere else, but they couldn't move. They knew they had been tricked. Gu Qian had told them that he was a senior of the extreme fiend race. Not long after the collapse of the Yorwild's continent, he had come here to search for the human king's heart. In the end, he had been betrayed by his companions. But from what Gu Qian had said before leaving, it was clear that he had betrayed his companions. They wanted to send the news to the others of the extreme fiend race, but they found that their voice transmission jade talismans were useless here. The same scene was happening all over the sealing formation. Many people had been brought into the killing zones of the sealing formation. A large number of experts had been killed. Some people had been careless, and even peak origin realm experts had died to the formation. After these people were killed, a Gu Qian would devour their soul fragments to strengthen himself. The sealing formation was like a purgatory for a moment. However, the area of the sealing formation was very wide. Gu Qian had purposely led the way, spreading them far apart. Adding on the fact that their spiritual senses were greatly restricted within the sealing formation, the others didn't know what was going on. Lu Ming and Gu Qian continued forward. The 2 of them crossed mountain after mountain. Gu Qian was leading the way. Lu Ming used his demonic king rune to discover that Gu Qian had indeed broken through the formation. He had gone through the formation's life gate, or loophole. Once we pass through this valley, we'll be halfway there. We'll soon reach the human king's heart. Gu Qian smiled and pointed at a valley up ahead. Are you sure we'll pass through that valley? Lu Ming didn't bat an eyelid, as if he had just asked casually. However, a sliver of killing intent had already flashed through the depths of Lu Ming's eyes. With his demonic emperor runes, he could clearly see that the canyon ahead was not the life gate, nor was it a loophole in the formation. It was filled with killing intent, and the formation was densely packed. It was clearly a land of death, a death gate of the formation. Fortunately, Lu Ming possessed the Fei King the Arch rune. If it were anyone else, unless they were an array grandmaster, they would not be able to tell. Gu Qian's heart skipped a beat, but his expression did not change in the slightest. He smiled and said, "Of course, the valley ahead is where the weakness of the formation lies." "Oh, I was just asking. Let's go." Lu Ming's expression didn't change as he strode forward. As he neared Gu Qian, he suddenly reached out with his 2 hands to grab him. The giant hand rapidly grew in size. Forbidden origin energy revolved around its fingers. It was terrifying beyond compare, capable of piercing through the starry skies. Gu Qian didn't expect that Lu Ming would suddenly make a move and was immediately hit. He was pressed down by two large hands and suffered heavy injuries. His body trembled as black smoke spread out and dissipated into the air. His soul dimmed and became somewhat illusory. "Ah, what are you doing? You're crazy!" Gu Qian roared. "Are you still playing dumb? Do you think I can't tell? That valley is clearly a death door, a dangerous place that contains terrifying killing intent. If I step in, I will die without a doubt. Since you want to kill me, I can only kill you first." Lu Ming said coldly. The forbidden origin energy kept circulating, suppressing Gu Qian, wanting to completely erase him. Gu Qian didn't expect Lu Ming to be able to see through the truth of this grand sealing formation. Back then, his cultivation had been extremely profound. Furthermore, he and his companion were both proficient in formations. They were both formation grandmasters. The two of them had worked together and spent a very long time before they were able to understand the grand sealing formation. But how could Lu Ming see through the truth of this formation so easily? Even a array grandmaster who was proficient in array grandmasters wouldn't be able to see through it so easily. Was it a coincidence, or was he trying to trick him? If he was trying to trick him, how could there be such a coincidence? Why would he choose to trick him here? Rumble. Lu Ming's taboo power of origin was too terrifying. It kept suppressing Gu Qian, obliterating his soul and body, wanting to completely destroy him. Gu Qian panicked. If this continued, he would really be turned into ashes. "Spare me, spare me. I won't dare to do it again," Gu Qian shouted. "You still want to do it again?" Lu Ming said coldly. This Gu Qian was vicious and would be a disaster if he was left alive. Anyway, this grand sealing formation couldn't stop him. Why should he leave Gu Qian alive? "I still have a use for it. We have only explored half of this grand sealing formation. I still need to lead the way for the remaining half." Gu Qian said. "I have the Demon King the Archmark. This grand sealing formation can't hide from me. Why do I need you to lead the way?" Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming didn't know that Gu Qian had thousands of clones, and Gu Qian's life was completely in his hands. Therefore, he didn't hide the fact that he had the Demon King the Archmark. "What? You actually have the Demon King the Archmark?" Gu Qian was shocked. He had never thought that Lu Ming would have the Demon King the Archmark, which was a supreme treasure of the ancient desolate era. He finally knew why Lu Ming knew that the canyon was filled with killing intent. It was the Death Gate because of the Demon King the Archmark. He was completely displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. He wanted to use this grand sealing formation to kill Lu Ming. It was simply wishful thinking. "I was wrong. I was blinded by greed. Please spare me," Gu Qian shouted. "Ridiculous," Lu Ming replied coldly. The forbidden origin energy continued to suppress Gu Qian, trying to destroy him. Gu Qian screamed miserably. His body became more and more illusory. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long and would be refined. "I still have a use for it. Even if we pass through this formation, the human king's heart still has the last seal. That seal can't be broken even if you have the Demon King the Archmark. We have to work together to break it," Gu Qian roared. Lu Ming couldn't help but pause. He retracted the forbidden energy and stopped refining Gu Qian. He said seriously, "Is what you said true? If it's false, I'll turn you into ashes." "It's absolutely true. As long as we pass through this grand sealing formation, we'll know whether it's true or false. If it's false, it won't be too late for you to destroy me then," Gu Qianzhan said firmly. Lu Ming knew that this was most likely true. As long as he passed through this grand sealing formation, he would know whether it was true or false. If it was false, Gu Qian would still die. "Let me ask you, why do you want to kill me? Do you want to devour my soul?" Lu Ming asked coldly. "That's right. It's true." Gu Qian didn't hide it. He knew that he couldn't hide it anyway. "You're not a human, right?" Lu Ming continued to ask, observing Gu Qian's reaction. Gu Qian's mind spun rapidly. In his eyes, Lu Ming was unfathomable. This young man gave him an unfathomable feeling. He didn't know if Lu Ming had noticed anything. It's better to tell him some things, lest he becomes suspicious and spoils the matter. Anyway, when the human king's heart is born, he won't be able to escape. There's only death for him. Thinking of this, Guqian said, I'm indeed not a human. Chapter 5064. Hearing Guqian's words, Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent. This Guqian was really not a human, but his soul aura was clearly that of a human. What was going on? Lu Ming asked. Because of my special physique and cultivation technique, I've already killed a few humans before you. I devoured their souls and could imitate the soul aura of other clans. Guqian explained. Lu Ming was a little shocked. How could it be like this? Wouldn't Guqian be able to impersonate countless races? As long as he devoured the soul of a certain race, he could impersonate that race. It was really mysterious. However, Lu Ming believed that this physique and cultivation technique were definitely not omnipotent. It was just that his cultivation was not high enough. If his cultivation was high enough, he would most likely be able to see through the truth. Previously, I kept bumping into other people. Was it your trick? Lu Ming continued to ask. Yes, I've been here for countless years and set up monitoring formations in many places. I know where there are people. That's why I could lure you over and meet those people. Guqian explained. Of course, he would not say that it was because he had thousands of clones that he could lead Lu Ming and the others to meet. He would never say this question even if he was beaten to death. It was related to his future plans. Lu Ming did not doubt it because it was completely reasonable. Let's continue to lead the way. Lu Ming said. The two continued on their way. Next, Guqian did not play any tricks, nor did he dare to play any tricks. Lu Ming had the Demon King the Arch Rune. Even if he played any tricks, it would be useless. After a period of time, they successfully passed through the ceiling formation. Lu Ming was safe and sound, but the people of other forces were not so lucky. Those who had a Guqian around them were all killed by Guqian. A large number of experts died and their souls were devoured by Guqian. Each Guqian grew stronger and stronger. This is, when Lu Ming passed through the ceiling formation and saw the scene in front of him, he could not help but be shocked. There were 8 mountains surrounding them, and in the middle of the 8 mountains was a flat land. In the center of this flat land, there was a blood coffin. At the same time, 8 chains wrapped around the blood coffin. The other ends of the 8 chains sank into the 8 surrounding mountains. These 8 chains were neither gold nor silver. They were not even solid. They were completely formed from the interweaving of rune formations. A broken sword floated above the blood coffin. Most of the broken sword was the hilt, and only a small part of the sword blade was left. It looked like it was only 1/5 of the complete sword blade. The other 4/5 of the sword blade had disappeared. The broken sword emitted powerful ripples, and chains made of runes extended from the broken sword, wrapping around the blood coffin. Dunk. Vaguely, Lu Ming heard thumping sounds coming from the blood coffin. It sounded like the beating of a war drum or the beating of a heart. Lu Ming's breathing could not help but become heavy. The heart of the human king. He was certain that the human monarch's heart was in this blood coffin. However, it was clear that Guqian was right. The sovereign personage's heart still had a seal. Those chains were the seal. Lu Ming operated the Fei King Emperor rune and observed carefully. Those chains changed in Lu Ming's eyes, turning into tiny runes. The size, strength, and energy ripples of these runes were all clearly seen by Lu Ming. How is it? Can you see the flaws and weaknesses of these chains? Guqian asked. Indeed. Lu Ming nodded. That's great. Let me tell you, these rune chains are very special. You won't be able to break them with just your origin energy. You will need to combine it with your soul energy to break them. Therefore, the two of us have to work together to break them. Guqian said. I see. Lu Ming nodded. It seemed that Guqian was right. If he wanted to break the seal here, he would have to rely on Guqian. Because Lu Ming had never trained in soul attacks, he had tried it before, but it was not very useful. Tell me where the weakness is. We will work together to attack that weakness. Gu Qian said. Let's attack together. Lu Ming pointed out a location and then took out a divine sword. This divine sword was an origin-grade divine weapon. Forbidden origin energy flowed into the divine sword and slashed at a certain location on one of the chains. At the same time, Gu Qian also attacked. His body glowed as he shot out a beam of soul light. The soul light turned into the shape of a battle sword and slashed at the same location as Lu Ming's divine sword. Asterisk clang. Asterisk the sound of metal clashing resounded. The rune chains shook, and Lu Ming's divine sword was sent flying. Gu Qian's soul light also collapsed. How is it? Is it effective? Gu Qian asked. It's effective. Lu Ming discovered with the Fei King Emperor rune that a small gap had appeared at the location of the rune chains. It was difficult for ordinary people to see it, but it could not be hidden from the Fei King Emperor rune. Lu Ming's confidence increased greatly. As long as it was effective, he would be able to cut it off sooner or later. Continue. Lu Ming roared as he continued to control the divine sword to slash down. Gu Qian also continued to attack. Asterisk clang. Asterisk after another round of attack, Lu Ming discovered that the gap in the chain had become a little bigger. Continue. The two attacked continuously, attacking that weak point. The gap in that weakness was getting bigger and bigger. When the two were tired, they sat down and meditated. After recovering, they continued to attack. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. After a month of continuous attacks, that gap had become very large. It was as if the rune chains would be cut in half in the next moment. Of course, this was also because too much time had passed, and the rune chain's power was no longer at its peak. Otherwise, with Lu Ming and Gu Qian's strength, they would not have been able to break it, no matter how much time they spent. In this month, no one but them had come here. Without Gu Qian leading the way, and without the Fei King Emperor rune, it would be impossible for them to pass through that ceiling formation in a short time. Even a big shot who was extremely proficient in formations would not be able to pass through that ceiling formation in a short month. Not to mention a month, it would be incredible if they could pass through it within 100 years. And this was only possible because the ceiling formation was not very good at the moment, and a gap had appeared. One must know that Gu Qian and his companions had spent 1,000,000 years to understand this formation. Of course, the ceiling formation back then was still at its peak. Without anyone to disturb them, Lu Ming and Gu Qian could break the seal in peace. Clang! The two attacked together again. Bam! This time, the sealing chain was completely severed. One part of the seal was severed, and the entire chain shattered with a bang. It turned into a rain of light and dissipated into the air. One of the sealing chains was broken. But there were still 7. They continued to attack the second sealing chain's weak point. Chapter 5065. Just like that, Lu Ming and Gu Qian worked together and used a total of 8 months to finally sever all 8 sealing chains. Dong dong dong. When all 8 sealing chains were severed, the sound coming from the blood coffin became even more intense. It was like the beating of a heavenly drum, shaking the void and the earth. This time, not only could Lu Ming and the others hear it, but the other experts trapped in the ceiling formation could also hear it. Even the experts in other directions heard it as well. This is the sound of a heartbeat? The human king's heart has appeared. Someone has found the human king's heart. Many people exclaimed. The experts trapped in the ceiling formation were incomparably anxious. And the experts in other directions were rapidly rushing in the direction of the heartbeat. However, it was destined to be futile. With the obstruction of the ceiling formation, these people were destined to be blocked. There's still the last seal, Gu Qian said. The last seal was the rune chains between the broken sword and the blood coffin. But at this time, Lu Ming's brows furrowed. I can't see the weakness. I can't see the weakness of the last seal, Lu Ming said. He activated the Demon King Emperor marks to the extreme. His pupils contracted and the 2 Demon King Emperor marks on his eyeballs flickered with a demonic light. However, he couldn't see the weakness of the sealing chains between the broken sword and the blood coffin. This broken sword was no small matter. It was as if it contained a frightening amount of energy. That energy was endlessly flowing out from the broken sword and poured into the sealing chain. This allowed the sealing chain to remain in its peak condition. There was no weakness at all. Legend has it that this broken sword is the sword of the human king Shen Yuan. Its boundless power. It seems that the last seal is not easy to break. Gu Qian said in a low voice. Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. This broken sword actually had such a background. It was actually the sword of the human king Shen Yuan. It could be seen that the human king Shen Yuan had experienced a tragic battle back then. Even his sword was broken. Looking carefully, one could see a faint fingerprint on the 1/5 of the sword. Lu Ming's heart thumped wildly, and his eyes widened in shock. Could it be that the human king Shen Yuan's sword was broken by someone's fingers? Impossible, Lu Ming shook his head. This idea was too crazy, illusory, and unrealistic. What kind of person was the human sovereign Shen Yuan? He was the ruler of the great desolate continent, a supreme peak expert. How could someone break his sword with their bare hands? It was a fantasy. Lu Ming shook his head and threw this unrealistic thought out of his mind. But immediately, another doubt emerged in his heart. According to legend, the human king was suppressed by someone. His body was divided into 7 pieces and sealed in 7 different places. Why would someone who had been suppressed use the human king's sword as a seal? Shouldn't the sovereign personage's sword be sealed as well? Could it be that the human sovereign's sword betrayed the human sovereign? I can't figure it out. Lu Ming had even more doubts in his heart. If we can seal or isolate the human sovereign's sword for a short time, the human sovereign's heart can appear. Once the human sovereign's heart appears, the sealing chains will break on their own. However, we are too weak. It is impossible. If I were at my peak, it might be possible. Gu Qian sighed. Lu Ming shook his head as well. Seal or isolate the human sovereign's sword. Was it possible with them? That was the human sovereign's sword, even if it was just a broken sword. Perhaps I can give it a try. Just at this moment, a voice rang out. It came from Lu Ming's wrist. It was Qiu. Gu Qian also looked over, looking at Lu Ming's wrist. Qiu, don't be careless. That is the human sovereign's sword. You might explode from it, Lu Ming said, not wanting Qiu to take the risk. Naturally, he knew what Qiu wanted to do. Qiu was very talented. It could swallow and refine any metal or divine weapon, turning them into its own power. The human sovereign's sword was also made of precious metals and was within Qiu's range of absorption. However, no matter how talented Qiu was, there was still a limit. This was the human sovereign's sword. How could Qiu swallow it? I want to give it a try. If I can swallow and refine it, it will bring me endless benefits. I might be able to break through to the source realm or even become stronger. I won't have to fear the source realm tribulation. Qiu flew out from Lu Ming's wrist, his eyes filled with fervor. He looked at the human sovereign's broken sword, his eyes filled with desire and greed. The human sovereign's broken sword was of a very high grade. It was the highest grade weapon he had ever seen. It was definitely an immortal Dao treasure. Once he refined such a treasure, there would be endless benefits. His talent and potential would increase to a shocking level. His battle prowess would be unrivaled, and his cultivation would skyrocket. He would be able to dominate the world. However, Lu Ming was still worried. Qiu, do what you can. Once you find that you can't, immediately give up, Lu Ming instructed. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I'll give it a try first. With that said, Qiu flew forward. His body grew bigger and bigger until he turned into a huge ball. A huge mouth appeared in the middle of the ball. It had a wide mouth with sharp fangs that looked like 2 rows of sharp swords. Then, Qiu's mouth suddenly opened like a snake swallowing an elephant. He swallowed the human sovereign's broken sword. Lu Ming was extremely nervous. He stared at Qiu, afraid that something would happen to Qiu. When Qiu swallowed the human sovereign's broken sword, his mouth suddenly closed and he floated in the air motionlessly. His body emitted a bright light, as if he was trying his best to refine the human sovereign's broken sword. Did he really succeed? He can even refine the human sovereign's broken sword? Even Lu Ming was very surprised. If that was really the case, Qiuqiu's talent was too terrifying. It could ignore the difference in level. Even Gu Qian was dumbfounded. He had a look of disbelief. What kind of race is this? He's only a divine lord, but he can even swallow the human sovereign's broken sword. Unbelievable. When I get the human sovereign's heart, I'll definitely take it and study it, Gu Qian thought. Then, his gaze turned towards the blood coffin. His eyes were burning. Asterisk dong dong dong. Asterisk when Qiuqiu swallowed the human sovereign's broken sword, the connection between it and the blood coffin seemed to have been cut off. The energy emitted by the human sovereign's broken sword also seemed to have been cut off. After the human sovereign's broken sword was cut off, the seal between the broken sword and the blood coffin lost its source of energy and collapsed, disappearing without a trace. Suddenly, terrifying tremors came from the blood coffin. With each tremor, the void shook and the earth rumbled. Lu Ming's face also paled. He retreated as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Asterisk crack. Asterisk suddenly, a crack appeared on the blood coffin. A wisp of blood chi surged out of the blood coffin. It was just a wisp, but it seemed to have turned into a blood-colored wave that flooded in all directions. At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly spread out from somewhere in the Heaven Destroyer's base. Chapter 5066. Somewhere in the Heaven Destroyer's base, a terrifying aura spread out. What's going on? What's going on? The Heaven Destroyer's base was in chaos. Everyone was alarmed by this aura. This aura was too powerful, as if it was the ruler of everything. It was as brilliant as the might of the heavens, making everyone breathless. In the next moment, a ray of light flew out of the Heaven Destroyer's base and into the depths of the universe at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. It was countless times faster than the speed of an Origin Realm expert. However, there were still people who saw what that ray of light was. The body of the human king. That's the body of the human king. I saw it too. Wasn't the body of the human king kept by Senior Fei Huang? Why did it fly away? What happened? Even Senior Fei Huang couldn't suppress it? Many people exclaimed, including Lion, Tang Jian, and the others. Their faces were very ugly. They had gone through so much to obtain the body of the human king, but now, it flew away just like that. All their efforts had turned into flowing water. Most importantly, where was the body of the human king flying? If it fell into the hands of the enemy, it would be a disaster. At the same time, in the depths of the universe, there was a mysterious and eternal unknown place. It seemed that even the Origin Tribulation couldn't affect this place. Inside, two figures were sitting cross-legged. If the Heaven Destroyer's people were here, they would definitely recognize these two figures. They were the immeasurable heavenly demon Fei Huang and the forbidden sword ancestor Tang Feng. Suddenly, Fei Huang opened her eyes. There seemed to be two lightning bolts in the void, piercing through the boundless void. Oh no, my clone couldn't suppress the body of the human king and it flew away. It seems that the heart of the human king has been born. Fei Huang's true body whispered with a hint of worry in her eyes. The world is unpredictable. Unfortunately, the heart of the human king was born hundreds of years ago. You and I can't interfere. It's up to them. Tang Feng also opened his eyes and whispered, "How's your cultivation? I'm still a little lacking. It's hard to succeed." Fei Huang sighed. 10,000 years, thousands of tribulations, and narrowly escaped death. I'll finally succeed. Tang Feng said. You're going to succeed. Fei Huang was pleasantly surprised. Once the Origin Tribulation is over, it should be about time. I hope they can hold on. Tang Feng sighed slightly. His face that was like an ancient well without ripples revealed a rare trace of worry. It would be difficult for them to take action in the following period of time. However, this period of time was also the most difficult period. Hopefully, the exterminating heavens troop could hold on. In the Western universe, the 9 elements forbidden land, under the crack, where the human king's physical body was sealed. A bloody aura swept across the place like a tide, dyeing the entire place red. This scene shocked everyone. Regardless of whether it was the people inside the Grand Ceiling Formation or those outside the Grand Ceiling Formation, they all saw it. Blood chi surging to the heavens, heartbeat thundering. The sovereign personage's heart is truly born. On. It. They were mad with hatred. Asterisk crack. Asterisk at this moment, more and more cracks appeared on the blood coffin. 1, 2, 3. Very soon, the blood coffin was covered in cracks that covered the entire coffin. Haha, the human king's heart is finally born. I didn't wait in vain after all these years. When I absorb and refine the human king's heart, I'll transcend and become invincible. Gu Qian laughed. His face was filled with ecstasy. Asterisk boom. Asterisk at this moment, Lu Ming made his move. Two big hands pressed down on Gu Qian like millstones. He wanted to completely obliterate Gu Qian. Kid, what are you doing? Gu Qian was furious. I feel that leaving you alive is a disaster. Let's send you on your way. Lu Ming said coldly. The forbidden origin force kept erupting. Gu Qian's body shook violently and was constantly obliterated. He turned into wisps of light and dissipated. However, Gu Qian didn't panic at all. Instead, he revealed a cold smile. Brat, do you really think that you can kill me? What a joke. Let me tell you, this is just one of my many clones. So what if you kill me? Once my clones merge into one, it will be your death. Gu Qian laughed. What? Lu Ming was slightly stunned. Haha. At this moment, Gu Qian's wild laughter came from all directions. Then, blood-red figures rushed out one after another. They were all Gu Qian. There were more than 100 of them. They looked exactly the same. All of them looked at Lu Ming with cold eyes. What's going on? Lu Ming was a little confused. These Gu Qian's aura was different. Some of them were like the human race. Some of them were similar to the 9-yin demonic spider. Some of them were like the extreme evil race. Are you confused? Let me tell you, I can create thousands of clones and devour the souls of different physiques at the same time to strengthen myself. You people came in just to give me nourishment. The Gu Qian that was about to be obliterated by Lu Ming laughed. It seems like what you said to me before is all fake. Lu Ming said coldly. It's not all fake. Kid, I'll let you die in peace. After all, you've made a great contribution to the birth of the human king's heart. I'm not from the human race. I'm from the heavenly soul race. Gu Qian said. At this moment he was full of confidence. He was just waiting for the human king's heart to be born. As for Lu Ming, he didn't care about him at all. He didn't mind letting Lu Ming know more. The heavenly soul race? The heavenly soul forbidden land? The one that was flattened by the human king Shen Yuan? Lu Ming said subconsciously. In the Azure Divine Realm, he knew a lot about the chaotic continent. He also knew a lot about the legends of the human king. Legend had it that the human king Shen Yuan once flattened 2 terrifying forbidden lands alone. One was the 9 elements forbidden land, and the other was the heavenly soul forbidden land. The heavenly soul forbidden land was inhabited by the heavenly soul race. They were extremely powerful, similar to the forbidden lands now. In fact, their strength was even more terrifying. Shut up! Gu Qian roared as if his sore spot had been poked. Shen Yuan dared to destroy the forbidden land of Tianhun. Now, I'm going to devour his heart. This is called an eye for an eye. After I devour his heart, I'll kill all the remaining humans in this universe to avenge what happened in the past. Gu Qian said coldly. You said that your companions betrayed you. In my opinion, it's you who betrayed your companions. Lu Ming said. So what? Is that guy qualified to share the human king's heart with me? Only when I refine the human king's heart can I be invincible. That abominable fellow actually guarded against me at all times, causing my sneak attack to fail. In the end, I could only fight. In the end, he actually wanted to perish together with me. Fortunately, I was lucky. Although I was heavily injured and on the verge of death, I luckily survived. This time, fortunately, so many of you came, allowing me to devour your souls and strengthen myself. Gu Qian explained casually. Chapter 5067. Lu Ming more or less understood what was going on. Countless years ago, Gu Qian and his companions had found this place. After going through untold hardships, they finally found the human monarch's heart and broke the sealing formation. However, Gu Qian wanted to take the human monarch's heart for himself, so he launched a sneak attack on his companions. Unexpectedly, Gu Qian was on guard against him, and the sneak attack failed, resulting in a huge battle. In the end, Gu Qian's companions were no match for him. However, after risking their lives, Gu Qian also suffered unimaginable injuries. Even after so many years, he still had not recovered. Then, not long ago, the experts of the various large factions entered this place. Gu Qian targeted the experts of the various large factions, wanting to devour their souls to strengthen himself. He could create 10 million clones, but unfortunately his injuries were too heavy and his strength was limited. Those weaker than him were directly killed by him and had their souls devoured. Probably before meeting Lu Ming, there were already humans who had died at his hands. Therefore, Gu Qian's soul aura was the same as a human's. When encountering those he could not deal with, Gu Qian would use the condition of finding the human monarch's body as a condition to cooperate with them. Lu Ming also understood why he kept encountering other people. It was not some monitoring formation, but Gu Qian's clones guiding each other. The goal was to make them kill each other confidently so that he could secretly absorb and refine their soul energy to strengthen himself. In the end, this Gu Qian, who was with Lu Ming, discovered that Lu Ming had the Fiend King Emperor mark, so he used Lu Ming to break the sealing chains of the human monarch's heart, allowing it to come out. Lu Ming smiled bitterly in his heart. He had already raised his guard, but unexpectedly, he was still used by Gu Qian. However, Gu Qian's soul aura was that of a human, which made Lu Ming lower his guard. At the same time, Lu Ming also did not expect that Gu Qian could create 10 million clones. He knew too little, which was why he was used. Gu Qian was an old monster who had lived for countless years. He was crafty and cunning, and was not easy to deal with. Crack crack. As they spoke, more and more cracks appeared on the blood coffin, and the beating of the heart became louder and louder. The blood qi that spread out became denser and denser. Gu Qianbai's doppelganger took a deep breath. Traces of blood qi were absorbed by his soul, causing his soul to glow even brighter. Lu Ming couldn't help but sigh in amazement. The heavenly soul race was truly terrifying. Not only could they devour the souls of living beings, but they could also devour the blood qi of living beings for their own use. This sort of talent was simply too terrifying and domineering. According to legend, during the era of the Yorwild's continent, this race had caused countless disasters for the sake of cultivation. Countless living beings had died at their hands. That was why the human king Shenyuan had acted to flatten them. It's about time. Lu Ming, I'll send you on your way now. Hundreds of Gu Qian roared at the same time and then charged towards Lu Ming. Hundreds of Gu Qian attacked together, their power shocking. Moreover, many of these Gu Qianis had previously devoured the souls of others. They were even stronger than the one who had been with Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless and immediately executed a Genesis technique. His body grew to a height of 3 feet as he raised his battle prowess to the peak. Boom! Lu Ming thrust out his palm, forming a continent that pressed down on the hundreds of Gu Qian. This was the Yorwild style. However, the Yorwild style's power was even more terrifying when activated in the Genesis technique state. Esoteric laws filled the air above the continent, as if they were about to transform into a real world. The terrifying power made the hundreds of Gu Qian's expression turn grave. Dozens of Gu Qian charged towards the Yorwild's continent, while the other dozens continued to charge towards Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! The continent formed by the Yorwild style shook violently and was blasted apart. At the same time, Lu Ming's war god spear swept out and clashed with the dozens of Gu Qian. Subsequently, Lu Ming shuddered violently and was forced to retreat. In the face of dozens of Gu Qian, Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, but he was unharmed. This was because the majority of Gu Qian's attacks targeted the soul. However, Lu Ming's soul was scattered across all the cells in his body, making it difficult to target. The attacks of these Gu Qian could not cause much damage to Lu Ming. Focusing on attacking the soul, very good, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He took a step forward and charged towards the Gu Qian instead of retreating. He stared at one of the Gu Qian and launched a fierce attack. With so many Gu Qian attacking at the same time, the attack power was too scattered and could not cause much damage. However, it was different if they focused their attacks on the same person. "You're courting death." Gu Qian saw through Lu Ming's goal, but he was not afraid. What did it matter if one or two of his clones were destroyed? He had hundreds of clones, and one or two of them dying was not a big deal. On the contrary, they could take advantage of the opportunity to kill Lu Ming. The other Gu Qian unleashed their full strength and attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming, who was wearing a top source-grade battle armor, ignored these attacks and focused on one of the Gu Qian. Bang! The war god's spear pressed down, surrounded by divine light and endless power. This Gu Qian's body was directly shattered. Although it was quickly recovering, its aura had withered a lot and its body had become illusory. It was seriously injured. At the same time, the attacks of the other Gu Qian also fell on Lu Ming's body. Unfortunately, most of the attacks were aimed at the soul. Although some of the cells were damaged, it did not cause any fatal damage to Lu Ming. One must know that Lu Ming had 60 trillion cells in his body. Even if thousands or tens of thousands of them were destroyed, it was just a drop in the ocean. It was not a big deal. The few attacks that targeted the body were blocked by the top source-grade battle armor and a layer of thin film on the skin. Lu Ming was fine and continued to attack. The war god's spear swept out horizontally. Bang! The body of the heavily injured Gu Qian's clone exploded again, but it was still not dead. It was just that this time, it was even weaker, like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. "Kill!" Lu Ming roared. He would not let go of such an opportunity and launched a fierce attack. The war god's spear continued to attack. Each spear contained the power of destruction. Fush, fush, swish. After a few consecutive spears, this Gu Qian clone was finally completely destroyed and dissipated in the void. "Your soul, what's going on? Why is attacking your soul ineffective?" Gu Qian roared. "Kill!" How could Lu Ming explain it to the other party? He continued to stare at another Gu Qian and launched an attack. "So what if you have hundreds of clones? I'll just destroy them one by one." "Kill!" Gu Qian's clone also roared and attacked Lu Ming again. Unfortunately, the result was the same as before. Their attacks were ineffective against Lu Ming. Lu Ming ignored the attacks of the other Gu Qian and focused on one of them. After a while, another Gu Qian was completely destroyed by Lu Ming. Damn it, his soul seems to be scattered in the cells of his body. Unless all the cells in his body are destroyed, attacking his soul is useless. Gu Qian finally understood. Chapter 5068. Gu Qian was an expert of the Tianhun clan. At his peak, his cultivation was unfathomable and his vision was unique. He was especially skilled in the Tao of the soul, so he could easily see through Lu Ming. After a series of probing, he had already figured out that Lu Ming's soul was not in his sea of consciousness, but was scattered throughout the cells of his body. After figuring it out, Gu Qian was extremely shocked. What kind of cultivation technique was this to be able to do this? How many cells did a living being have? It was simply unimaginable. To scatter the soul into the cells of the body, this cultivation technique was simply heaven-defying. As long as the cells of the body were not destroyed, it was equivalent to being immortal. A fortuitous opportunity, a heaven-defying opportunity. Gu Qian's eyes immediately burned with passion. If he could obtain this cultivation technique, it would be a heaven-defying opportunity for him. His life force would skyrocket, and he would be immortal. Perhaps this opportunity would not be any worse than the mortal king's heart. However, if he wanted to obtain this cultivation technique from Lu Ming, he needed to first suppress Lu Ming. "Do you think that I can't do anything to you if you scatter your soul into the cells of your body? As long as I use my super strength to destroy your body, You're dead for sure, Gu Qian coldly said. Afterwards, he did not continue to attack Lu Ming. Instead, he rapidly retreated. Following that, over 100 figures charged towards each other. He was fusing. Asterisk swish swish swish, asterisk 2, 4, 8, 10. As Gu Qian's figures fused together, his aura constantly skyrocketed. It rose extremely quickly, and a terrifying pressure radiated from Gu Qian's body. Lu Ming's face became stern. He could sense that Gu Qian's cultivation was skyrocketing. If the cultivation of the figures at the beginning was only at early reciprocity, then now he was rapidly charging towards mid-reciprocity, and then towards late reciprocity. Clearly, if Gu Qian wanted to fuse all his clones, he would need to use his super strength to suppress Lu Ming. Against an enemy that was too strong, even if Lu Ming scattered his soul into the cells of his body, it would be useless. His opponent could use his super strength to suppress all his cells in an instant, or destroy them in an instant. What do I do? Lu Ming rapidly pondered, trying to think of a countermeasure. In the end, the only method he could think of was to retreat. Yes, the difference in strength was too great, and he had no way of resisting. At this moment, Gu Qian's presence had actually reached late reciprocity, and it was still rapidly increasing. This was because Gu Qian had only fused with half of his clone. After all the clones had fused, what level could Gu Qian reach? Does it surpass the origin? Too strong. At that time, Gu Qian would probably be able to suppress Lu Ming with one hand. However, just as Lu Ming decided to retreat, an unforeseen event occurred. Gu Qian, who was fusing with his doppelganger, suddenly trembled as if he had encountered a terrifying pressure. It's the Great Tribulation of Origins. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He could sense that the pressure of the Great Tribulation of Origin was increasing dramatically in the void. That's right. For now, only early reciprocity existences were allowed to move about freely in the universe. Gu Qian's clone was too powerful after fusing, so he was suppressed by the Origin Tribulation. This damned Great Tribulation of Origins, Gu Qian roared. He had never expected that he would be suppressed by the Great Origin Calamity even though he was only a soul without an origin root in his body. It was simply unreasonable. Bang, bang, bang. Gu Qian, who had fused with more than half of his doppelganger, constantly emitted explosive sounds. After more than 10 consecutive explosions, Gu Qian's body exploded and dozens of figures flew out. Gu Qian's fusion had failed and he was injured. Because the bodies of these doppelganger were much more illusory than before, he had lost a lot of soul power. Looks like your plan has failed. If you can't fuse, then I'll destroy you one by one. Lu Ming laughed. Holding the war god's spear, he stepped forward and was about to launch another attack. Lu Ming was not afraid of Gu Qian, who could not fuse, no matter how many of them there were. As long as he focused on one of them, they would be destroyed by him sooner or later. Damn it! Gu Qian roared, his expression changing. Kacha! Kacha! The cracks on the blood coffin were still increasing. At this moment, the cracks on the blood coffin were densely packed. It was unknown how many of them there were. Bang! Following that, the blood coffin exploded with a bang. Dong dong dong. The thunderous sound became even more intense as a soaring blood light spread out. Lu Ming saw that a heart had appeared where the blood coffin was originally. The heart was the size of a normal person and there was still blood flowing from it. Furthermore, the heart was still beating as if it had just been dug out of a human body. The human monarch's heart was truly born. Do you think that I can't do anything to you just because I can't fuse? My means are not something you can imagine. When I devour the human monarch's heart, it will be the time of your death. Seeing the human monarch's heart, Gu Qian was overjoyed. Following that, Gu Qian's doppelganger actually charged towards the human monarch's heart. The human monarch's heart did not have any other reaction and allowed Gu Qian to charge in. Soon, Gu Qian's doppelganger entered the human monarch's heart. However, there was still one Gu Qian outside. Gu Qian was not completely confident. Hence, he left a doppelganger outside just in case. As long as one doppelganger was not destroyed, Gu Qian would not die and there would be a chance for him to rise again. Brat, Do you think that all existences above the origin source will be suppressed by the origin source calamity? Let me tell you, that's because they are not strong to a certain extent. Once they are strong to a certain extent, the origin source calamity will not be able to do anything to them. Moreover, we are nearing the end of the origin source calamity. Once I absorb the human monarch's heart, the origin source calamity will not be able to do anything to me. When that time comes, you will die. Gu Qian's doppelganger sneered. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with a cold light. Following that, his killing intent exploded as he shouted, "Then, I will stop you before you succeed." Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and the battle god's spear expanded. Like a mountain range, it pressed down on Gu Qian. He would first destroy Gu Qian's doppelganger before finding a way to stop Gu Qian from refining the human monarch's heart. Gu Qian's doppelganger's face turned ugly as he retreated. However, he was already enveloped by the battle god's spear and was locked down. There was no way for him to retreat. Boom! Under the pressure of the battle god's spear, Gu Qian's doppelganger exploded. Following that, a terrifying force pressed down on Gu Qian. Soon, Gu Qian's doppelganger was destroyed by Lu Ming. Then, Lu Ming looked at the human monarch's heart. How should he stop Gu Qian? Should he attack the human monarch's heart? However, this was the human monarch's heart. Would his attack be effective? Lu Ming, do you think that destroying my doppelganger will work? Let me tell you, it's useless. Your ending is already set. You will die in my hands. Gu Qian's roar came from the human monarch's heart. Chapter 5069. At the same time, Lu Ming felt that the blood qi that was spreading out from the human king's heart was actually contracting. Could it be that this guy can really refine the human king's heart? Lu Ming was very shocked. He felt that Gu Qian was definitely not ordinary at his peak. Perhaps he was a top expert of the Tianhun Forbidden Land. Otherwise, how could he have such means? One had to know that this was the human king's heart. Even if it was placed in front of them, not many people could refine it. Gu Qian actually had such means. He was definitely not ordinary at his peak. Thinking about it, the human king's heart was sealed in this continent and had not appeared. Gu Qian could actually enter back then. How could his means be ordinary? Lu Ming's heart was heavy. If Gu Qian really refined the human king's heart, it would really be a disaster. In the current universe, who could stop him? It would be a disaster for all living beings in the universe. One had to know that in the previous era, the Tianhun race had caused a tragic disaster on the Eldritch continent. They devoured the souls of living beings and refined their blood. Who knew how many living beings died? In the end, if they were not destroyed by human King Shen Yuan, who knew how great the disaster would be? And now, who could stop Gu Qian? That is, Lu Ming suddenly turned his head and looked in a direction. Lu Ming felt that there was a terrifying aura surging over from that direction. Then, Lu Ming's pupils suddenly widened. What did he see? The human king's body. Yes, it was actually the human king's body. Wasn't the human king's body kept by Fei Huang at the Heaven Destroyer station? Why would it appear here? Could it be because the human king's heart was born and they could sense each other? It was very likely. Lu Ming couldn't help but recall that when the human king's body was born, the human king's limbs and head also flew out by themselves, breaking the seal and fusing with the human king's body. The human king's heart was the core of the human king's body. It was normal for the human king's body to fly over from a long distance. Boom! The human king's body descended and floated in the air, emitting a powerful aura. It was as if the human king had reappeared and dominated the world. Next, the human monarch's heart flew towards the human monarch's physical body and fused into its chest. At this moment, the aura that was being emitted from the body of the human king was even more horrifying. It was as though the body of the human king had been revived. Blood qi was emanating out repeatedly, as though the human king had been revived. What's going on? Human sovereign corporeal body? A complete human sovereign corporeal body? Gu Qian's shocked roar came from within the human king's body. Next, a powerful energy erupted from the human king's body. Gu Qian's clones flew out of the human king's heart. More than 100 Guqians flew out and stared at the human king's heart. Soul, I can feel a soul fluctuation. The human king is not dead. Could it be that the human king is still alive? Guqian found it hard to believe. He kept shouting, his face full of fear. His fear of the human king, Xianyuan, came from the bottom of his heart. Back then, if he had not been in the heavenly soul forbidden land, he would have been killed by human king Xianyuan. Now, he actually felt a trace of soul fluctuation in the human king's body. How could he not be afraid? Lu Ming's heart was also greatly shaken, raging waves rising in it. There were soul fluctuations in the human king's body? Could it be that the human king was really still alive? After countless years, he was about to be revived? This was definitely a major event that would shock the universe. If that was the case, it would be a great blessing for the human race. It would also be great news for the Heaven Destroyer. One had to know that the leader of the Heaven Destroyer was also a human. The Forbidden Sword ancestor, Tang Feng, was from the human race. With the human king's protection, the human race, or the Heaven Destroyer, would no longer have to fear the various forbidden lands. Lu Ming could not help but feel anticipation in his heart. The aura of the human king's body grew stronger and stronger. There seemed to be a horrifying energy awakening in his body. This time, even Lu Ming could sense that it was the power of the soul. A horrifying soul energy was awakening in the human king's body. Whoosh! Suddenly, the human king's eyes that had been closed for countless years opened again. Two rainbow-colored lights shot out from the human king's eyes. They were like two divine swords, slicing through the void and splitting the sky. Rumble! The sky split open. This world was originally sealed under the 9 elements forbidden land. Above was the vast land of the 9 elements forbidden land. At this moment, the land of the 9 elements forbidden land was split open by the two rainbow-colored lights from the human king's eyes. When the human king opened his eyes, heaven and earth collapsed. The power was so strong that it was beyond imagination. What's going on? How terrifying! The sky has been split open. What's happening inside? At this moment, all the experts of the various races who had entered the place where the human king's heart was sealed were stunned. They did not know what was happening. The human king's gaze swept through the surroundings. Then a deep voice rang out, "Human king, back then, you wanted to use your physical body to seal me forever. You wanted to use the power of time to erase me. Who would have thought that one day I would break free? Not only that, but I can also fuse with your physical body. With your physical body, not only can I recover to my peak, I might even be able to reach a higher level. Ha! The formation you left behind, disappear." Following that, the human king raised his arm and grabbed at the air. The surrounding ceiling formations suddenly trembled. Countless runes flew out from the ground like small snakes, flying towards the human king's palm. Finally, they gathered into a ball and were caught by the human king's physical body. Such a method was simply unfathomable and unimaginable. The people who were originally trapped in the ceiling formation all broke free. They all soared into the air and saw the human king's physical body. Immediately, all of them were stunned. Like Lu Ming, they all thought that the human king had come back to life. The humans of the Azure Divine Realm were naturally overjoyed. However, the beings of the various forbidden lands had extremely ugly expressions. Only Lu Ming's heart kept sinking. Previously, Lu Ming had heard the words of the human king's physical body clearly. The words of the human king's physical body had clearly stated that this was not the human king himself. The human king, who had awoken, was someone else. This person was sealed by the human king's physical body. However, wasn't it said that the human king's physical body was sealed by other experts? Why was it different from what he knew? At this moment, Lu Ming's mind was in a mess. You are not the human king Xianyuan," Gu Qian exclaimed. "Of course not." The human king's physical body looked at Gu Qian and said coldly, "Tian Hun, you want to refine the human king's heart? How laughable! Become my nutrients." With that, the human king opened his mouth. A terrifying suction force erupted and instantly enveloped all of Gu Qian's clones. All of Gu Qian's clones involuntarily flew into the human king's mouth. Spare me, Gu Qian roared in horror and struggled frantically. However, it was useless. In the next moment, all of Gu Qian's clones were swallowed into the human king's mouth silently. It was as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Chapter 50-70. The sovereign personage's physical body swallowed Gu Qian in one gulp. After entering the sovereign personage's mouth, Gu Qian disappeared without a sound. Unfortunately, it is only a remnant soul. It is of limited use to me. If it were at its peak, it would still be possible. A voice came from the sovereign personage's physical body. This voice was not the sovereign personage's physical body speaking, but the soul in the sovereign personage's physical body sending out soul fluctuations. Lu Ming was not the only one who saw this scene. The surrounding experts of the various races saw it as well. Without the sealing array, these experts soared into the air. Nothing could obstruct their vision. They could clearly see the situation on Lu Ming's side. Lu Ming's expression turned extremely grave. As for the others, they sucked in a breath of cold air. They knew that something extraordinary had happened. Perhaps a terrifying old monster had awakened. Based on what this person said, he was sealed by the sovereign personage. What kind of terrifying existence could make the sovereign personage personally take action? At this moment, the sovereign personage's physical body looked at Lu Ming. The sovereign personage's physical body's eyes were empty and lifeless, no different from the eyes of a corpse. However, Lu Ming felt like he had been seen through. His body involuntarily tensed up. This was an instinctive reaction. Why does this brat have that kind of blood in his body? Strange, strange. The soul in the sovereign personage's physical body muttered to itself. Of course, Lu Ming could not hear it. It was the soul in the sovereign personage's physical body that was thinking. Then, the soul in the sovereign personage's physical body said, "Little fellow, I have to thank you for being able to break free." Lu Ming understood what the other party meant. At the very least, there were two things that were closely related to Lu Ming for the sovereign personage's physical body being able to break free. One was the sovereign personage's heart. The previous seal was broken by Lu Ming and Gu Qian working together. The other was the sovereign personage's right hand, which Lu Ming brought out. "Who exactly are you?" Lu Ming shouted. "On account of the fact that you helped me, I can answer some questions. My name is Teek, a great enemy of the sovereign personage Xian Yuan." The sovereign personage's physical body fluctuated. Everyone in the surroundings felt a chill in their hearts. Wouldn't Xian Yuan's great enemy be an expert on the same level as Xian Yuan? Now, such an expert had appeared. The human monarch's corporeal body was divided into 7 parts to guard 7 directions. Was it to seal you? Why is it said that the human king's body was divided into 7 parts and sealed in 7 different places? Lu Ming continued to ask. Since the other party would answer a few of his questions, he might as well ask all the questions he had. In the past, there had always been a rumor in the universe that someone had divided the body of the human king into 7 parts and sealed them in 7 different places. However, the current situation did not seem to be the case. Lu Ming was very puzzled as to why there would be such a rumor. That's because I purposely spread those rumors. If I didn't say that, would you all be so desperate to gather all the sovereign personages' bodies? How can I escape then? The human king's body spoke. Lu Ming's expression was ugly, and the others were silent. That was indeed the case. If everyone knew that there was an old monster sealed within the sovereign personage's body, who would dare to complete the sovereign personage's body? However, it was different from the other way around. The human king's body was sealed by someone. As long as the sovereign personage's body was gathered and the sovereign personage's body was born, he would be able to sweep through the universe. Only then would everyone be proactive. The reason why those words appeared on the bronze box was also because of you? Lu Ming continued to ask. That's right. It was me. Teek's answer was very straightforward. Everything was clear now. From the information he had now, Lu Ming could already deduce the general situation. Back then, the human king Xian Yuan and Teek had fought a great battle. Both sides had probably suffered great losses. The human king was on the verge of death, and Teak was also severely injured. Only his soul was left. However, the human king Xian Yuan did not have the strength to obliterate Teak's soul. In the end, he had no choice but to divide his body into 7 parts. He also divided Teak's soul into 7 parts and used his body to seal Teak's soul in 7 different places. In the past, he had always thought that those sealing array formations were set up by the person who sealed the human king's body. In fact, it was completely the other way around. It was clearly set up by the human king himself. At this moment, Lu Ming felt a little bitter. Everyone had been led by the nose by Teak, helping Teak release himself. The unification of the human king's body was equivalent to the unification of Teak's soul. Teak had been reborn. I am destined to rule the world. Lu Ming, your talent is not bad. Your future achievements will not be small. I can give you a chance. If you submit to me, I can spare your life. Teak said. I refuse. Lu Ming shook his head. This Teak was a great enemy of the human king Xian Yuan. He was definitely a great enemy of the human race, or even the primordial continent. Perhaps, the destruction of the primordial continent was related to this person. How could Lu Ming submit to him? As a man, there were things that he should do and things that he should not do, even if it meant losing his life. Very good. You have a backbone. Unfortunately, whether you refuse or not, there is only one outcome. Don't worry. You have something that interests me. I will not kill you for the time being. It won't be too late to kill you after I study it thoroughly. After saying that, Teak stretched out a palm and grabbed at Lu Ming. Boom. This palm was the human king's palm. It was too terrifying. The void exploded and turned into chaos. Chaos chi surrounded the human king's palm. It was incomparably huge and grabbed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming let out a long cry. He could not allow himself to be captured. Even if the other party was an invincible expert, he had to resist. He frantically activated the forbidden energy. However, in the next moment he felt a chill in his heart. He discovered that his body was completely motionless. In fact, even the taboo source power in his body had stopped flowing. It was as if it had been frozen. Before the huge palm could grab him, he had already been completely sealed. The gap was too big. It was so big that it was boundless. It was so big that it was beyond his imagination. It was like an ant in the mortal world facing a divine dragon in the divine world. Powerless. At this moment, Lu Ming felt deeply powerless. He had been cultivating hard enough and growing fast enough. However, when faced with such an existence, there was still a huge gap between them. The huge palm pressed down, wanting to suppress Lu Ming. However, at this moment, the human king's palm suddenly stopped. The human king raised his head and looked at the sky. Boom! The sky exploded, and countless boulders crashed down. Then, an ancient warship rushed in. The warship looked extremely old. It was covered with sword marks and the hull was tattered. Moreover, there was a black chi on the warship. It looked eerie and terrifying. It looked like a ghost ship. On the deck of the ship, there was a skeleton sitting there. This was... Lu Ming could not help but widen his eyes in shock. This was because he had seen this ancient warship before. That was the first time he ventured into the ruins of the universe. He was chased by a young void beast and encountered a battleship on the way. Fortunately, the battleship blocked the void beast and Lu Ming was lucky enough to escape the calamity. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.